Spaghetti.
Spaghetti indeed, good sir, and welcome everybody to Deep Fat Fried.
Oh,
now don't
deep.
feel like you have to watch this one. This is a Scotty episode. Everyone can go. It's fine. You know, we all understand that every once in a while we have to do a Scotty episode. We got to let the drooling beast out of his cage to make an episode. And we know that they're horrible, but, we got to do it.
I have an endorsement of someone. Someone said that when I do an episode, it's like a crackhead has to do a book report.
It's like a crackhead got to do a book report.
That's like a glowing endorsement, dude.
I know.
That's a glowing endorsement if there was.
Because who the hell would miss that? If someone was like, yo, there's a crackhead doing a book report, you'd be like, holy shit.
Come on down.
Let's get over there. We got to see this.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I was doing my pre-show ritual, and how did we land on a crackhead doing a book report? What's happening?
Someone said that Scotty, someone in the comments, I guess, said that Scotty doing an episode is like a crackhead doing a book report. A crackhead
doing a book report.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so what?
So what?
Shit, I gotta get my fucking lighting right.
Get the lights right, Scotty. You had time to mess with this fucking for eternity before we did this. And only now do you fuck with it.
My bad.
Tiskety tisk tisk tisk.
Oh, Scotty done fucked up now.
Oh, shit, dude. I'm in the fucking dark ages.
Scotty fucking cast himself into fucking 1,000 years of darkness.
Fuck, dude.
Got too much technology over there.
Too much tech, but not enough mental discipline. That's the problem here.
How does it feel, TJ, that no matter how hard you try, your beard will never be quite as resplendent as mine?
Fine.
I have the type of beard that, like, maidens back in the day would come to, like, put cockle shells in and shit after a battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think maidens putting cockle shells, huh?
Yeah, maidens would come and weave cockle shells and other ornaments into my beard after a battle.
Yeah,
in my previous lives.
I don't think so. Paul.
The age of purple has begun.
I think that you're thinking of not maidens but neckbeards, and you're thinking of load beards, not cockle shells.
No, cockle shells.
Verily, I say, I shall remove this man from my sight.
Remember how
to a place far from here, perhaps a wooded clearing in the woods.
When a man with a beard like mine is away on a Viking raid, the women are busy at home painting beads and ornaments and fine gold strings to weave into my beard when I come home.
Yeah.
A conquering hero.
But then I come back and I say, sadly, Sir Paul fell in battle. And then I take all your maidens and they weave it into my beard instead.
Your unadorned beard would have never been in battle with me in the first place. You'd be back home churning the butter while the women make my beads.
Nope. I'd be out there in the battlefield, and just after the victory, I'd slay you.
Does this mean that I can stop churning butter now? No.
I've got the second best beard in the land. So once you're gone,
the second best.
Once you're gone,
man
I'm
on
the
my
top.
ship has got a beard just as good as mine.
You ain't got no ship. Let me see this ship. What?
When they come to the village, TJ. They come to the village inn with you churning your little butter. They'll come in. They'll be like, "Ready for a load, beard boy?" Well, sir, I'm just trying to show some. And then they'll just fucking line up and they'll have a fucking load beard train.
Paul's the one who gets load bearded, man. I'm still disappointed.
No, you're getting so defensive.
I'm still disappointed.
You know it's true.
Who's got a bigger beard?
I'm still disappointed that no one actually load bearded Paul.
If we were 900, 1,000, maybe 2,000 years in the future, TJ, I would be sitting right now on a throne made from the bones of my enemies.
Yeah.
With topless maidens surrounding me, adorning my beard, festooning it, TJ, with golden beads and the rarest of threads and powdering it with the rarest of Chinese spice powders. Yes, TJ. And you know what you would be doing?
What?
You would be scrubbing the floor in my fucking personal latrine.
I see.
More work.
No.
Off I go then.
No, that's wrong, Paul.
To scrub the latrine.
Paul comes in after a night of partying.
I might do that for a time, but I'll be plotting.
Oh, sorry, TJ. Oh, couldn't make it to the toilet. I clean up.
So you'd find the stairs.
Me, Lord.
You'd find the stairs leading down from your massive throne quite slippery when I was done, and you would plummet to your death.
You think you could get close to me?
Yep.
A man whose beard is being festooned. I've got goons, dude. They catch you anywhere near the stairs to my bedchamber, and it's off with your toilet scrubbing head, dude.
I didn't think a big tough guy like you would need goons, but okay.
What do you mean?
I'll have to account for those goons.
What are you talking about?
I'll have to account for those goons as well.
Tough guys like me don't have time to deal with like lowly latrine scrubbers trying to grease the stairs. You know what I mean? We got other shit to attend to.
No. You're going to plummet to your fucking death, and I'm going to steal all your riches and all your bitches. And then
all your
will,
riches and all your bitches.
And then I shall have
like that, TJ. You better get in line because my goons have got better beards than that.
No, they don't.
It looks like some kind of
damn well
sipping
TJ, look,
latte beard.
Hey, let's be honest. You're the Glass Joe of beards, dude.
Yeah.
Glass Joe of beards? What the hell?
Yep. The Glass Joe of beards, dude.
I don't know.
That's exactly right.
I feel like my beard's pretty good, especially as young as it is.
Glass Joe feels like his jaw's pretty strong too.
You'll never do it unless you can actually fucking man up and grow that beard like you've always said.
What do you mean? It's grown. It's fucking. I have a full beard.
I can barely see it.
What?
Oh
man!
Can you get closer to the camera, TJ, so we can even see?
Where's that beard at, dude? I mean,
I think it just might be a shadow from his lighting. I can't really tell.
No.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn the brightness up so I can see it. I'm really just not. Let me full screen TJ, see if I can see his beard. I'm not seeing it, man.
Oh well.
I see a little scruff there.
I guess I must be delusional. I guess I must
have to ask my girlfriend to festoon my beard for me.
Let's see Paul's beard. Oh, dude, Paul's beard. Like you can't even tell where Paul's beard. Where does it even end? Does it even end? Where does
the beard begin and Paul end? You know what I mean?
I don't even know.
I am beard.
No.
Festoon it for me.
TJ, you can only criticize Paul's beard when you show up and you guys have a beard contest, and like either your beard is more decorative or is longer, and preferably both.
Man, that would be like Mike Tyson fighting like a minor league fighter or something, like a single A fighter at some fucking gymnasium somewhere. You gotta earn the right to do a beard battle with me. Especially once I get it festooned, which I know you're going to be jealous of when it's done, TJ.
Oh, shit, TJ. TJ's just got to keep it going, man. He's got to keep growing it. But if he taps out and cuts it early...
I can't wait to festoon this fucking beard,
You know what?
dude.
The fact of the matter is that after just a few months of growth, my beard is almost on the same level as Paul's. So in another year or so...
Wait a minute. Hold on.
After another year or so, my beard is going to be much longer than Paul's.
I want to clarify this.
And this will all seem ridiculous to everyone who watches.
My whole argument has changed. Are you saying that it only took you 3 or 4 months to grow that embarrassment of a stubble on your chin?
Yes.
Wow. Everybody bow down to the new king. Yeah, what's going to happen? This beard is almost 3 more months.
Where does it go? How far down does your beard go? Because it seems like it goes right about down to your chest.
See, TJ,
and mine's already there.
This is a common misconception amongst beardlets, as we call your type. That having just a bunch of gangly hair hanging down farther is what makes a man's beard. No, TJ. Let me give you a look.
Okay.
Do you see the mane that my beard creates? How it frames the entirety of my face and expands my presence. Do you see how it mixes with the curly, thick locks spilling over my shoulders, TJ, to where you can barely tell what's beard and what's head hair? This is a beard, TJ. What you have there is an intellectual's little plaything. It's like Oh, yes, I'm going to sit and read Nietzsche and stroke my beard. Oh, in another 2 months, it'll be another centimeter or two longer. But you've got it all trimmed up top, TJ.
Wow. Guys,
hey, Scotty, how much length do you think is on that mustache right there? Can you even call that a beard?
I don't even know. But guys, I'm actually getting a transmission for myself from the future. All right, let's see what this has to say.
Yeah.
You're nothing, TJ. You're nothing but garbage. Wow, dude.
Wow.
The future holds
future Scotty
is garbage.
Wow, future Scotty is so different than present day Scotty.
I know, it's crazy,
shocked.
dude.
I'm shocked.
Your beard, TJ.
We all know what this is. We all know what this is about. Paul already sees that I'm coming for his title, and he's scared. So he's got to fucking talk all this trash,
oh my God,
all this discouraging garbage, trying to fucking
TJ.
Because look, I understand, because Paul's been top of the beard pile for a while. All of a sudden, he sees a challenger in his midst, and he has to try to tear them down. But I'm not falling for it, Paul.
A challenger in my midst.
Yeah,
TJ.
You don't even have a mustache. You trim your fucking mustache too much.
Mustaches are annoying.
TJ,
So who cares?
we got to be honest, though. There's a point of honesty before we actually start covering the topic of this episode, and this is that. Let's even say you and Paul go head to head, and Paul is forced to acknowledge. Let's even just say the unthinkable happens. Your beard beats Paul's beard. It one day happens. Paul held the title for like 6-7 years at that point. So that means you're going to have to hold that beard title for 6 to 7 years to even equal his run.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
In fact, the moment I beat him, I'm going to shave it all off, just to show how little it means to me.
Then I'll have the new title.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll
give it right back to you because that's how little it means to me.
Former title holder and new
champion
of the world.
That's how little it means.
It's fine, TJ. Hey,
the central part of your identity to me is nothing. I can casually defeat you, and then
here's why you won't beat me.
And then just
here's why you won't
slice it
here's
away.
why you won't beat me, TJ. Here's why you won't.
Paul. Why won't he beat you?
Because number one, you're shaving that mustache back, and a full beard with a tiny wispy little mustache like that starts to look weirder the longer it gets, and it's just going to look lame. Number two, you're also trimming them sides back too.
What sides?
You are. The edges over here.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
You've snipped those edges back a little bit.
No, I have not.
Yeah, you have.
No, I haven't.
You're shaping that fucking beard. You're not letting the beard shape you.
Yeah.
That's why you lose.
That's great.
You lose. Good day. All right, well, you guys will have to battle this out later.
This dinosaur is boring me. Let's get to the topic.
Oh, okay. You know what, TJ? You probably heard a lot about this.
Let us get to the topic at hand.
You probably heard a lot about this defund the police shit. And I know, TJ, you being a staunch conservative you are, probably deeply opposed to it.
I'll tell you what. Being a small government conservative that hates the government, I say we need the largest police force possible.
The largest force possible.
In fact, I think...
And the most militant, too.
Yes, and I think they should have military... I don't even know if we should necessarily... you know what? I actually do favor defunding the police. I think that we need to have the U.S. Army as the police. Expand the Army. Patrol the streets. Keep the fucking civilians in line to preserve freedom.
Use of live fire has been activated or whatever.
And I'm tired of all this namby-pamby bullshit about, like, we need to de-escalate. Bullshit. The second anyone steps a single fucking solitary toe out of line, I say we gun them down like a dog.
Dude, every town just needs an ED 209 unit.
Hell yeah. That'd be awesome.
Whoa. Damn, Paul, that's a good idea, dude. They'll patrol the streets. They'll keep us safe. Like they kept the people of RoboCop in Detroit. They kept those people safe. Remember?
Yeah. Remember how he fought against and tried to kill that methed out other robot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty dope.
Fucking crazy shit, dude.
I like. I think that like you see someone jaywalking or something. I don't care if it's a human or it's a robot, but someone needs to just gun that person down
immediately.
That you can jaywalk around, no warning. Yeah, man, that robot still issued warnings. I mean, it killed you no matter what you did anyway, but still, it issued warnings.
It doesn't even have to kill you. Just institute like a social credit system. Chip everybody at birth.
See, this is a bunch of,
if you're caught jaywalking,
bunch of soft-hearted liberal garbage. The second you're seen jaywalking, Immediately. No warning. Shot.
Damn, TJ. I don't even know what to say to that, dude. Like, that's a little draconian, man.
No, it's not. Now, do I know what you're going to say? How are we going to keep our prisons full if we just shoot everyone for any crime?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, I think we just have a prison lottery.
Oh, okay.
Every person, anybody at any time could go to prison, for no reason.
I say we just turn New York City into a giant prison.
I mean, isn't it really already that?
Yeah. So let's just put a fence around it, put the military around it, start sending all the prisoners there and let them have their own little slice of life,
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
But what if Snake Plissken shows up?
All right, you know what? Maybe New York's not enough. New York and L.A. will both become prisons.
All right.
There you go. Can't be at two places at once.
Snake might be able to beat New York, but he can't beat L.A.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Come on, TJ. Come on, dude.
There's no way he could fucking prevail in both fucking cities
in both.
in the far future apocalypse scenario.
Yeah,
and I'm going to recommend that we start like a secret one in like Mexico City. Just like make Mexico our secret third prison. So if he does beat LA, like, because can you imagine? Like Mexico would be like the supermax prison.
Oh yeah. Anywho,
you fucking rambling fucks.
Plus, Trump's already building the wall anyway. Scotty's mad.
Oh yeah, Snake Plissken.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Scotty. So what research you pull on Snake?
Dude, TJ, whoa, wait a minute.
What?
You got to be educated about Snake Plissken. You need an episode on him? Look, TJ, I thought it was just like your Bible to understand what that motherfucker was about.
I thought we were doing an episode for the plebs, though. Like, we're doing an episode for the people so they can understand the glory of Snake Plissken.
TJ, I can't fucking... Look, that's not something you can be taught, TJ. That's something you have to live. You have to experience it, TJ. You got to go fucking chill with Snake if you want to learn about Snake, man. It don't work. You think some fucking show, some neckbeard is going to teach you about Snake Plissken?
I guess not.
Come the fuck on, TJ.
I thought that's what you pulled. So are we doing it or not? What are we doing?
We're not doing that. We're doing the truth about defunding the police. We're talking about the fucking police, your favorite organization.
Okay.
Dude, you begged me on hands and fucking knee, like, please, Scotty.
Please
defend
God.
the police. Please defend the police, Scotty. Unfortunately,
what happened after he got down on his knees? I don't want to know, dude.
I kept churning that butter.
Yeah, it was churning butter, Paul. What the fuck, dude? All right. What does defund mean? If you're dumb and don't know what defund means, it means to withdraw financial support from, especially as an instrument of legislative control. The call to defund the police seeks the use of power of money to produce systemic change that previous incremental efforts at reform have not yet yielded, according to many activist researchers and some leaders.
Lies.
Here's the basic argument.
The basic argument is that police fucking suck dick.
Yeah, that's a large part of it. Police forces have been increasingly receiving a disproportionate amount of money of a city's budget. In some cities, it's fucking like 25-30% of the city's actual general fund is policing. So instead of paying for such things as extensive officer overtime and expensive military equipment, cities should reallocate that money to a city's social services, such as mental health, education, and housing. Reallocate here means to reassign money initially set aside for one agency or department and to be put into the budget of another. So it's just moving money around. It's like they're already having this money, but instead of spending it on the police, they're going to spend it on...
So it's not actually defunding the police.
Why are liberals, and I guess not liberals so much as leftists, like, why are we so bad at slogans? Because, it seems like if you fucking went out there and said, like, reallocate police funds to social programs, I guess that's not as catchy, but people would at least understand it intrinsically.
You need to keep it shorter than that.
Still, maybe people would at least understand it.
We'll talk about that in a little. We'll talk about that later in the episode about kind of the mainstream media's narrative on this and why it's bullshit.
Gotcha.
Of course. I mean, no shock to anyone here that the media would lie.
I'm shocked.
It's predicated on the belief that investing in communities would act as a better deterrent to crime by directly addressing societal problems like poverty, mental illness, and homelessness, issues that advocates say police are poorly equipped to handle and yet, unfortunately, are often tasked with. So here's something crazy that I learned. I mean, and this is one study that was done. According to some estimates, law enforcement spends 21% of its time responding to and transporting people with mental illnesses. Police are also frequently dispatched to deal with people experiencing homelessness, causing them to be incarcerated at a disproportionate rate. I mean, that's about 1/5 of police calls, according to that survey. And that doesn't necessarily mean that's the exact number, but it says, but just the reality is that a lot of times they're just dealing with people who are just out of their minds, who just don't know where they are. They're delusional, whatever. They're having a mental health crisis, or they're just homeless. And I've even seen that.
I mean, homelessness, like the vast preponderance of people that are actually living homeless are mentally ill. So sure. Homelessness itself is a problem that could be addressed by addressing mental illness.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of times it's not either or. They're both interconnected. Yeah,
there are a few people maybe that choose to live that way, that are just like, I'm gonna be a hobo or whatever. Like, you know, but the vast majority of people that are living on the street are mentally ill and can't hold down a job.
You know, I mean, that is true to some extent, but with the rise of housing cost, I mean, it's not as true as it used to be, unfortunately. You know, that's. You know, but I mean, you're right. A lot of those people, but it's a lot of people just living in these high cost living areas on the West Coast.
So I have stats on this if you guys want. A study by the National Institute of Mental Health found that approximately 6% of Americans are severely mentally ill, compared to 20 to 25% of the homeless population that suffers from severe mental illness. Furthermore, 45% of the homeless population show history of mental illness diagnoses. So about 20 to 25% of homeless people are severely mentally ill, and about 45% have some sort of mental illness.
Right.
So nearly a majority.
About half. About half have some kind of mental illness history. And then 20 to 25% are severely mentally ill, compared to about 6% of the overall population. So much higher.
No shot.
So like 5 times higher, basically.
Well, and because there's no really resources to help those people. So so what happens is
there's no resources to even give them a fucking roof over the head. So of course there's no resources for them to get mental health treatment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so systemic failure, in other words.
Well, the country used to have, like we talked about it, the country used to have a network of mental health facilities. Now,
well, Reagan decided we didn't need it, so
there was some brutal shit that went on in them, but for the most part, it was a place that was specialized in just like keeping a fucking mentally ill person safe and trying to treat them. And that was dismantled. So now they go to the streets and they go straight to prison.
Woohoo! Yay!
Which as you can imagine, is fucking great for their mental health. Prison is a place that creates mentally healthy.
That's where they get the help they need, finally.
Yeah, all the time. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the cost of the police. As you guys can imagine, you know, it's cheap to have all these police in our country, right?
Yeah, it's not like a big deal, right?
It's cost effective. So since the 1960s, municipal governments have increasingly spent larger portions of their budgets on law enforcement. This is partially rooted in the war on crime launched by President Lyndon B. Johnson, the guy that also, by the way, nearly was killed in a plane crash, which prioritized crime control via law enforcement and prisons. So federal and local officials, and I think this is a generous description, wrestled with how to address concentrated poverty and racial segregation in cities, whether to focus on welfare programs or social control. Ultimately, the decision to manage these larger socioeconomic problems with law enforcement and prisons ends up winning out, said Elizabeth Hinton, a historian at Harvard who is writing a book on that era. As spending on police increased, federal aid to cities shrank for anti-poverty programs and social services. And increasingly...
I love the idea. I love this approach. Should we try to prevent this from happening? Or should we just have a bunch of armed thugs to beat the shit out of the fucking results of our terrible system when it fucking goes awry? I'm liking the armed thugs approach myself. It's like, what? How the fuck do you come to that conclusion? You have to, I mean, like, I don't even.
I think
you can't even really say it's like a conservative solution if you're going to have any sort of traditional definition of conservatism, right? Because it's not small government, it's not cost effective. It just seems like the only reason they want it is because they want to brutalize fucking people. It's just
well,
like
they want control.
I'm going to argue, like in the modern age, conservatives have never really been about small government.
Well, that's kind of the point I'm driving at, I guess.
Right. It's a meme, but when it comes down to it, they cash their fucking social security checks like everybody else does. And when it's time, when they can't get a job, they get on welfare like everybody else does. So
it's about spending priorities. Because look, under the conservative administrations we've had, spending has increased. And it's just they want to spend more money on the military, they more money on the police, more money on these kind of programs, which are basically just forms of social control. Because you have a bunch of thugs on the street beating people back. I mean, they're obviously at some point they're like, and you've talked about this, Paul, solidarity. Like if you see the police stand in lockstep together.
Oh, dude, I was thinking when I first pulled this picture up, the thought entered my mind. I was like, dude, at least 2/3 of these dudes are just fucking boned up. They've been waiting all year to put on their stormtrooper gear and shit and march down the street.
I feel so powerful.
Their action movie fucking hero fantasy is about to fucking happen, man. Their power fantasy has come true. Look at it. Oh, man, I love it.
When we get to this picture of the Minneapolis
Crush
police,
the dissidents.
I think it's towards the end of the episode, but you really see like that image is totally evocative of what you just talked about. Because you can tell it's like kind of like it's a thrill. It's like a rush to some of them. I'm also not gonna say all of them, because I can't.
I think most of them are fucking extraordinary. Like just the power of that.
Yeah.
Like if you're not drawn to that, what are you doing on the police force in the first place when it's militarized like this?
Absolute power.
So increasingly, the police took on these roles too, and we're talking about anti-poverty programs and social services. A public housing community center in Washington, D.C. became a police outpost. So housing community center, now a police outpost, of course.
Sweet.
We know everyone trusts the police, so everyone's going to go there.
I think I remember us talking about that in TJ's episode.
Yeah. It said missing documents. A jobs program in Chicago put young people to work, installing cameras and barbed wire around housing projects.
Thank God.
These things become merged, says Ms. Hidden. And by the Carter administration, all urban policy becomes crime policy. Huh. And so it's like viewing all these people in these urban centers as criminals. And the way to deal with them is through law enforcement.
Law enforcement.
If only there was some characteristic about people that lived in these areas that we could figure out why
they're black.
What? No, Paul.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, that can't be it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Nah. Wrong, Paul. Wrong. Cook, beta cook.
And meanwhile, of course,
we need government thugs to keep them in line. And by I mean
people.
You know what I mean?
Undesirables. You know what we're talking about.
Riff-raff, you know.
The hooligans.
The hoi polloi.
So you guys love
ne'er-do-wells.
Some more people you guys love dearly. Meanwhile, police unions have wielded significant power in local politics due to direct endorsements of political candidates and funding of campaigns. Can't believe that. Police department budgets have been considered untouchable for decades. So
this is what but
look at this here, Paul.
This shouldn't be disheartening to people about unions, because this should show you the power of a powerful fucking union, because this is exactly what a national labor union would do.
Oh, yeah.
It would throw money at candidates that were pro fucking worker. And these guys are throwing money at candidates that are pro fucking police. More money for the police, raises for the police, more budget for the police. Why wouldn't they?
So of all these cities here, I mean, New York City, surprisingly, is only at 8.2% of their general fund.
Yeah, but look at their fucking overall expenditure on that shit. 4.8
Well, they spend about,
billion.
we'll talk about New York City specifically a little bit later, but LA, 1.49 billion, 25% of its general fund. Chicago, 1.46 billion, 39% of its general fund.
It's working so great there, you know that?
Yeah, Houston, $850 million, 35% of its budget. If we go down to Oakland, $242 million, 41% of its budget. Minneapolis, the city that was in the news, $163 million, 35% of its budget. And actually, I believe that's for 2017. If now the budget for the last year they passed was actually 193 million. So that number has increased by $30 million over the last 2 years.
We need more police.
Wow, pretty fucking crazy. So I want you guys to guess. So by 2020, how much do U.S. cities collectively spend on police every year?
Like across the board?
Across the board, the entire country. How much do we spend on police in the United States of America?
I mean, just looking at this, it's got to be in the hundreds of billions. It's got to be in like the 2 or 3 or 400 billion category.
So when you say cities, are we only talking about major cities, or are we talking about like literally like every town in America that has police?
All police, all through that.
Every town in America.
So all police, all across America, the price tag. I feel like Paul's probably in the ballpark. I'll say 150 billion.
Okay, Paul, what do you think?
I said like 200 or 300 billion.
All right, TJ.
In that range.
Next image, please. Just give you an example, because I'm about to tell you the answer. But I just want you just to look at this. This defense spending by country. You might say, how's that relevant? Because actually the number is, by 2020, U.S. cities collectively spent approximately $115 billion per year on policing, which is bigger than nearly every other country's military budget. So look, China, they spend more. So basically,
U.S. and China's military budget is higher than our police budget, but every other country, their budget for their entire military is lower than the budget we just spend on police. I mean,
some of these are deceptive because some of them are small nations, but like Russia's a huge, France. I mean, like the fact that these larger, more developed nations like the UK are underspending our police budget for their entire military budget is
it's pretty crazy.
Now I got to be honest with you. A lot of this is due to the fact that a lot of the countries you're looking at rely on the United States.
That is true.
In terms of like, if the shit hits the fan and somebody's invading, we're allies. So
it's just crazy to think that we're basically equipping a small army.
But we're the ones bearing the brunt of that shit for the world right now.
Well, sure.
Some of them.
I mean, yeah, in some of those cases, correct. But what I'm saying is, well, it depends on what country you're talking about. China, definitely not. Saudi Arabia, yes.
There's like
India to some degree.
There's way more countries on this list that we would go to war for than countries we wouldn't.
Oh yeah, I think that. I mean, that's probably a sign of just basically the peace process that developed after World War II and the relative calm we've had. I mean, China, sure, you get that. That's a country that the people would say the U.S. would go to war with them. Saudi Arabia, at least in the current administration, has very close ties. India, I don't think we're going to go to war with them.
I can't think of an administration in my lifetime that hasn't had close ties to Saudi Arabia at this point.
The Bushes had even closer ties than Trump.
Like Bush publicly blew the fucking Saudi prince. So
yeah, he went and held his hand. I want to hold your hand.
I want to hold your hand. Yeah.
So I mean, I think in fairness, to speak to that point, that is true.
I want to hear TJ do a karaoke cover in his Beatles sing voice. Okay. I gotta hear this now.
Right, well, maybe I'll get to it one of these days.
Yeah, I should do it, TJ. I mean,
yeah, you got to start doing. I do karaoke.
Yeah, but
it's about having fun, TJ.
You can kind of sing. I can't really sing, so. Then again, maybe that'll make it funnier.
It's not about that.
But I mean, the point remains. I mean, yeah, I'll grant you that is true. We do. These other countries do rely on the U.S. a lot for defense spending, but we do spend an awful lot on policing.
Well, why should we be the taxpayers of this country, be bearing that fucking burden?
That's a very good question, but not the topic of this episode. So, for many cities, policing is their largest or near largest expenditure. For example, in Los Angeles in 2020, the LAPD budget constituted 17.6% of the city's budget. $18.86 billion out of a $10.5 billion budget, and 53.8% of the city's general funds, tax revenues that are not designated for special purposes.
What's the total number in fucking LA again?
1.86 billion.
So if they took, I don't know, like half of that, they could probably build some pretty massive no income housing and shit for the people that are living under fucking overpasses in LA County.
Yeah, they could
there's
probably
a lot more that can be done.
There's probably enough there to solve, or at least mitigate the homelessness problem. There's probably enough there to fucking give significant mental health treatment to a lot of people who don't have
there's
it.
There's probably enough there to fund a like what Washington has, that kind of like state single payer type thing, but like a city version of it.
Probably.
Where it's like, if you're an LA resident, you have basically single payer Medicare.
And when we're talking about that policing budget, keep in mind we're only talking about the police. We're not talking about the criminal justice system. We're not talking about building more prisons. We're not talking about the cost of prison guards. We're not talking about any other of the costs associated with the criminal justice system. So if you're taking all those funds that we're talking about, obviously you're still going to need those things to exist. I'm not saying that the budget will be zero, but if they were rolled into other programs, I think we would see just a net positive impact, because of the fact is that we're spending all this money to incarcerate people.
It depends on the program. Not to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt you, Scotty, but it depends on which programs it's rolled into. It needs to be rolled into programs where a good majority of that money ends up in the pockets of the lower income people in the city, because that's like the reason fucking LA sometimes needs militarized police is because there are areas of LA where there's a lot of fucking guns and crazy fucking riots and shit pop off. Like, we need to address the poverty that's at the center of that. So if they rolled it into programs like, to mitigate homelessness, or some kind of like city-based UBI for people that are, or an expansion of city-based welfare.
Well, it's talking about, progressive policies. It's talking about people getting health care, people who are very poor having housing, people who have mental health crisis, which affect all of the population, getting the treatment they need. I mean, a lot of times, people with mental illness just suffer. It's like people think of them as violent. I mean, there's definitely people that do become violent because they're mentally ill. A lot of it's just abject suffering. It's like it's just letting people rot on the side of freeways and just saying, well, it's just their fault. They're lazy.
Dude, I'll never forget. I know I've mentioned it before here, but we were chilling the first time I came to LA with a friend of mine from fucking Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And we were taking a fucking Uber downtown, like to downtown LA where all the museums and shit are. And every fucking overpass was just camped on both sides and all underneath it with people. And she was like, what's going on? Is there like a foot race or something? Like she had no fucking clue.
Foot race?
Yeah, she thought people were like setting up to watch like a foot race or something that was going to happen later.
Oh, man.
It's like, no, this is their life.
I was like, yeah, no, these are homeless people. And she was like, you're kidding. She was like, she was flabbergasted by it. Like, if you've never been to LA, like it's kind of sad because I've seen it since I was a kid. It's gotten worse.
Yeah.
But since I was a kid, driving around LA, if you're going to go certain places, you're just going to see camps of homeless people. It's been like that for a long fucking time. And I'm kind of desensitized to it to a certain degree being there. But like for somebody, because like that just doesn't happen in Australia. There's not like roving camps of people that are homeless. Like,
they're crazy. What can we say? They're insane.
There's a safety net that prevents people from doing that. You know what I mean?
Nah, man. Throw them on the streets. Let's talk about New York City.
New York, it's a hell of a town.
Sing the rest of the song, TJ. You want to sing?
No.
Want to fucking sing, TJ?
Yeah, maybe I do.
Sing me a fucking song, bitch.
Scotty ain't nothing but a bitch.
All right.
That's it.
Not much of a song, but I guess you tried.
Yeah.
See, New York City's annual police budget is about $6 billion, which is more than the city spends on health, homelessness services, youth development, and workforce development. Combined.
Of course.
Oops. So they've had, of course, some calls for defunding, proposals to be money to be reallocated. So, for instance, activist city council candidates in New York City proposed cutting the NYPD's budget by $1 billion over the next 4 years. Not even that significant. I mean, you think that's about $256 million a year they want to cut from the budget. But another thing with that budget is pension contributions and fringe benefits cost about another $5 billion. in the year 2020. So the budget's really more about $11 billion a year. $11 billion out of about a $90 billion budget.
With once again, the same thing's true in New York. With half of that, they could probably eliminate homelessness, completely and utterly eliminate poverty in the city.
And at the very least make meaningful strides towards those goals.
I can't see how they couldn't. Like, think about it, because look at what were those. Could you read again, Scotty, what those other departments were that their combined budget?
Health, homeless services, youth development, workforce development.
So imagine if that was inverted. And imagine if the budgets for each one of those dwarfed the police budget. Imagine like the good that could be done in New York City. Like people wouldn't be living on the street. There'd be a strong safety net. People wouldn't be dying of preventable illness. They'd have health care.
If the system was based on the well-being of of just every citizen, then yeah. I mean, because if there were federal, that's just what the city would be doing. There should also be efforts by the state and by the federal government.
Yeah.
If those combined efforts, homelessness should be like a very rare thing. Like that would be, ideally, it would be a very, very rare thing that just someone slipped through the cracks. Basically.
If they legalized or at least decriminalized drug use in New York City, it would fucking change the city overnight.
So here's some. If you guys, I don't know if you guys want some stats on homelessness in New York, but I have some.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in April 2020, there were 60,422 homeless people, including 13,861 homeless families, with 20,494 homeless children sleeping each night in the New York City municipal shelter system. Families make up more than 2/3 of the homeless shelter population.
Crazy.
Over the course of the city fiscal year of 2019, 132,660 different homeless men, women, and children slept in the New York City municipal shelter system. This includes over 44,300 different homeless New York City children. In 2015,
those are just the people that sought the shelter system.
Yeah, that's just the people in the municipal shelter system. Yeah.
Right. There are swaths of people that won't go.
Right. So they said that the number of homeless New Yorkers sleeping each night in municipal shelters is now 61% higher than it was 10 years ago. The number of homeless single adults is 133% higher than it was 10 years ago.
So,
and where do those people end up, TJ? If they go to these shelters, unfortunately, a lot of these shelters are filled with crime and filled with people taking advantage of, the weaker people that go to these places. There's a lot of children there. They get taken advantage of. Single moms, they get taken advantage of. People who are just, are weak or susceptible.
Right.
So you have that problem. You have the fact that they have no stable housing to kick them out. So people lose all of their belongings.
Let's not forget that a lot of times, if the homeless people try to build like little camp cities and stuff and try to let's rely on each other, that kind of thing, the police will come and bust that shit up.
Yeah.
I mean, you even see that in that movie, They Live, where Roddy Piper and his pals are all living in the tent city, and then the cops show up and just tear the whole thing down. That's real. That might just be a movie, but that happens in real life all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's just simply because that's how the problem is dealt with. It's an eyesore to these other people, the business owners or whatever. It makes the community look bad. So every once in a while, you're right. They'll go round everyone up, but it just fills back up again. They just do it again. It's a never-ending cycle of failure.
And in fact, according to this statistic, 14% of the nation's homeless population live in New York City alone. So the homeless problem there is crazy.
I mean, with everything going on in the world, that's not a surprise. And, with the eviction crisis, there's so many crises that'll derail the episode. Okay, so according to analysis by the Independent Budget Office, about 88% of the department's adopted budget in the fiscal year of 2019 covered personnel services, salaries, wages, and overtime, while 11.2% went to other than personal services, OTPS.
What is that?
Which is... It's to fund purchase of supplies and equipment. So basically, of this $11 billion, 88% of it is spent on
Garbage.
salaries,
Garbage, basically.
overtime, pension, benefits. Ooh. So when they talked about like this is about public safety, it's like no, this is about enriching a group of people that work for this organization. Because by the way, most of these cops in New York City get overtime. They make about $90,000, but on the average, I think in New York it's about $113,000 a year.
What do you guys think about like instead of trying to push to defund the police, what about like trying to fundamentally change what the job of a police officer is?
Well, that's what we're gonna
because like in a time where so many people are unemployed, the idea of just like kicking a bunch of cops off the force, like why don't we give them the opportunity to morph themselves into a public service that combine them with EMTs and firefighters, like highly trained professionals, give them mental health crisis training so that they can get people to facilities and shit.
Well, we're actually going to discuss what Minneapolis is planning to do a little bit later on. But TJ, why don't we get to something here? So cities with the lowest police per capita.
Okay.
So here we have this. So, okay, so law enforcement. So this is Acme, Iowa. Let me like full screen this. Or Ankeny, Iowa.
Ankeny, Iowa.
So law enforcement employees, 104, 7 per 100,000 people. Total officers, 54. So violent crime rate, 216. We'll just keep going down, TJ. Minnesota.
Lakeville, Minnesota.
103. Oh, 68.2. Oh, what about this one? 103. McCandless, Pennsylvania. 45 rate. Oh, man. Seems... Okay, that's kind of strange.
Why are the crime rates so low?
The crime... I mean, this is really weird. So... You have a low rate. Okay,
Michigan's rate was pretty,
but the rates all over the place. You know, it's like in some communities, and you can say that there's smaller areas or not. So TJ, go to the other one.
I wanted to see what number one is.
You want to see what number one is? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to see what the number one lowest.
I gotta see what number one is.
Shit is or whatever, or does this go higher? I don't know what this does. Okay,
yeah. So you're getting to places with the lowest rates of police.
Lowest, Clinton, Utah. Probably because that's named after our fine president, Bill Clinton. Lincoln, California. Even better president.
Number one, University Place, Washington.
Got 15 cops.
Dude, Lincoln, California sounds like paradise. Let's go.
Lincoln, California.
But as you guys have noticed, the crime rates have varied wildly, and it doesn't really seem... Oh, let's look at the place with most police. Just for another example.
Okay.
So you're saying, hey, those are the places with the least amount of police per capita. What about the places with the most?
Wilmington, Delaware.
Number 10, 498 per 100,000 people.
Dude, I didn't know
violent crime rate.
I didn't know there was anyone in Delaware with such a high crime rate.
Damn, so they have a lot of police and a lot of high crime. Huh. I wonder what that crime is coming down.
Yeah, you think all those police would help drive the crime down, you know?
Let's see, Philadelphia, 509 per 100,000.
Nope.
Wow, damn, Hammond, Louisiana, just right up the street from us.
Yeah, I could be there in fucking a few minutes.
Yeah, 1,390 violent crime per 100,000 people, but even despite the fact that it's ranked 8 in the U.S. with 505.2 law enforcement employees per 100,000 people.
Wow. St.
Louis, another high crime city. Plenty of police, though. What about Beverly Hills? Hey, there you go, Beverly Hills. That's pretty good.
Their police seem to have gotten the violent crime under control. That's pretty good crime rate.
Yeah, those for some reason in a really rich area that seems to work out. Let's see, Miami Beach, 1,000. Well, let's go to the bottom. Let's just go down, TJ. New York,
of course.
Washington D.C. Crime is high. Have lots of police, but the crime is still high.
What I'm getting from
Myrtle Beach.
What I'm really getting from this more than anything is that the police don't seem to have much to do with the crime rate in the city.
What? TJ.
That's a shocking statement that you've just made.
I mean,
if we get rid of all the police, the crime's going to go through the roof, remember?
Right.
If the police aren't there to protect you,
it seems like
crime is going to go up.
It seems like there might be other factors influencing the rates of crime other than how many police you have.
The reason I bring this up is just because one of the common refrains you hear about this is, if you cut the police. Oh, my God, if we cut the police. what's going to happen to these cities? The most police cities per capita have, for the most part, extremely high violent crime rates.
Yeah, well, imagine how high it's going to be once you fucking get rid of the police, though.
In places with a low number of police per capita, it varies wildly as well. But it doesn't seem that the number of police has any real, there's no real correlation with less police equaling less crime.
Whatever.
How about,
boy.
because another thing is police spending and crime rates. So let's talk about that, TJ.
All right, here we go. Here's a chart. I like charts.
You like charts, TJ? Are you sure
I
you
love
like charts?
them. I love the chart. It's a good chart.
So in 1960, about $2 billion was spent by state and local governments on the police. And at that time, there were about 1,887 crimes per 100,000 Americans, including 161 violent crimes. By 1980, spending had increased, since only 20 years, to $14.6 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And crime rates had soared to 5,950 crimes per 100,000 Americans and 597 violent crimes. Over the next 2 decades, those rates thankfully fell down to about 4,120 crimes per 100,000 people and 507 violent crimes.
Well, this chart clearly shows that funding the police worked. The more funding the police got, the lower crime went. See? I mean, it didn't look that way up and through the 90s, but, then it finally started working.
Yeah, well, it looks like towards the mid-90s, we reached a nice little equilibrium point where it's like, okay, we could flatline here and everything's going to keep falling. But the police were like, nope, let's just ensure it never goes back up more. Give us more, give us more, give us more, give us more. Because, yeah, dude. And by the way, I also want to point out, I want to take my boomer privilege here and point out what pussies modern people are. Like the 90s was actually when shit was jumping off in this country. And I lived through that shit. And you know what? I had way more freedom and less restrictions on where I could go and when I had to be home and shit than kids do now. And I survived that shit.
And that's actually when crime rates started going down.
Now you guys all whine about not feeling safe and shit. Fuck you. I lived through the 90s, dude. Shit was cracking off in the 90s.
The fucking pinnacle of crime. And we were fine. We didn't fucking complain.
Hell no. You didn't have no helicopter parent.
But it's crazy. So 1980, we're spending $14.6 billion. Over the next 2 decades, we're going to talk about those numbers, but spending of that time had spiked to $67 billion. 18 years later, by 2018, the most recent year with full data available, crime rates had fallen further to 2,580 crimes per 100,000, including 381 violent crimes. Spending that year topped $137 billion.
So it's just, they're not going to stop. And and in order to fucking justify this meteoric rise in funding, they've got to use that shit. They got to break out the fucking stormtrooper uniforms and the big riot shields and the tank, the gas grenades and stuff. They're like more incentivized to use that shit against what, in a lot of cases are just peaceful protests.
So what's crazy, though, is even in recent years, when national spending on police dropped per person, crime has not risen. In 2006, the United States spent $386 per person on state and local police, with a crime rate of about 3,800 per 100,000 people, and a violent crime rate of 474 per 100,000.
And the 90s looks like Mount Everest. I climbed Mount Everest. Everybody on this podcast climbed Mount Everest and survived, man. Now we're down in the valleys and people are still bitching and moaning and crying about it.
Crime.
Well, this is if they control for the spending for population too. The pattern will look like this, with climbing spending from 1980 to 2010, with crime rates falling from the early 90s on. So basically, crime peaked and started dropping in 1991 in this country, and pretty much has stayed on a pattern of decline.
Even better, because now I can lord that over you, dude. I lived way more in the 80s than you bitches did. It was way more dangerous in the 80s.
That's
what are
true.
you going to do now?
I don't know. What are I going to do, man?
You know
I
what,
don't
Paul?
know.
I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to call your mom and be like, when did you grow up? And your mom will say, oh, through the 60s and all that shit. I'm like, oh, when violent crime started rising. Now get your mom on your ass, dude. She'll fucking tug on your ear and shit. Yeah, because you know what, Paul? You ain't gonna have no argument for that. That's when crime started going crazy.
I got no argument at all for anything against my mother.
That's why I said I'm gonna get your mom.
I've yet to this day, I've yet to win an argument with her. She's the only person I've never won an argument with in my entire fucking life.
Yeah, good luck. Because you ain't gonna win it. So
what's all these dots?
What do these dots mean,
Explain
TJ?
these fucking dots.
All right, TJ, I'll explain it to you because you're dumb.
Explain it. I don't get it. Dots.
If you look, TJ, at how spending has changed relative to crime in each year since 1960, comparing spending in 2018 dollars per person to crime rates, if you look down at this here thing here, we see that of this graph here. There is no correlation between the two. More spending in a year hasn't significantly correlated to less crime or to more crime. For violent crime, in fact, the correlation between change in crime rates and spending per person in 2018 dollars is almost zero.
What a lie. Lies.
You know what? This just looks like a wall that somebody with a bloody nose sneezed on to me.
Yeah, dude.
I can't even read graphs. I take your interpretation, Scotty. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at.
All right, Paul. Look, you see this on the side. It says changes in state and local police spending. They're showing it can be up 20%, and then they're showing that line there, change in violent crime rate. Does that line look like it's changed significantly to you guys?
No.
There you go. There you go. That's what they're saying. They're saying you can't. You
should go get that rash checked out, is what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying. All right. So
I think it's got acne, dude.
The police have added the roles of managing domestic violence and substance abuse. Clearly, that's I'm a victim of that as well. And responding to growing homeless populations and keeping students safe in schools, which is bullshit because they've actually hid when schools have been attacked.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Remember that one cop? What was that one cop that did that?
It was in one of the
Parkland.
Yeah, the Parkland.
And the cop didn't go in, and they were just like, nope. And then people, then we found out that like the Supreme Court had ruled like ages ago that cops have no fucking like duty to protect anybody. So it was like totally fine that he did that or whatever.
No, they have no duty to protect you unless you're in their custody.
What the fuck are they doing in a school then?
They're just taking up space. They're there to
they're getting paid, Paul.
Roughing up kids too. Remember that 11-year-old we covered? They got tackled.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they do that all the time, dude. Like they'll deal with kids that are unruly, and of course they're a cop, so it's like every problem is the hammer and the nail. Like they're the hammer and the kid's the fucking nail. And it's crazy because like the kids didn't even come forward with that. It was just that video surveillance had shown that. So the kid might have said like he slammed me into the ground, but they're probably like, this guy didn't do it. Oh wait, there's a video.
Did you guys have cops roaming around campus and shit when you were kids?
Yeah.
Yep.
Did
you?
No.
Oh damn!
Like if there was a cop on campus, some shit went down. Like some kid got caught with drugs, or there was a fight or something when somebody got really hurt. Like we had like security dorks, but they were not armed. They just wore yellow shirts, and everybody made fun of them. And they had just enough authority to like make sure the kids didn't get too out of line, but not enough to like, I don't know, like get back at us for the constant insults and shit we slung at them. So it was like the perfect balance. You know what I mean? They could get you in trouble with the principal, so you didn't want to push them too far, but you could like walk by them and sneeze and be like, fat, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And like they didn't have a gun that they could pull on you, you know? They just had to be like, what'd you say? And then you turn around and be like, what? I sneezed, Richard. I'm sorry. We had our favorite one was Fat Richard. And even though like a bunch of my friends and me were fat, we knew it was his soft spot. Like he was paunchy as fuck. He was fat. So like we would walk by him and sneeze fat every time. That was our thing with him.
You guys are dicks.
Damn, Paul.
He was a dick.
That sounds awesome, though. Like having some like adult you can kind of fuck with. You know what I mean? That sounds like for a teenager. That was probably pretty cool. Like, badass. What?
Dude, he was so fucking stoked when he caught me smoking too.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I came back from lunch and parked my car back by the drama room, and there was like this loading dock that was complete. Used to like 9 times out of 10, dude, there was nobody there, and I was like, I'm gonna duck back there and have a smoke real quick before I go back to class. Fuck this shit. And I did, and I lit up, and fucking Fat Richard walked around the corner like, well.
Dude, I was hoping, I was hoping in my mind, he said, like, I was hoping he had some shit like, gotcha, Parky.
No, it was
like that.
He was just like, well, what do we have here? He was just pleased as punch, man. He nailed my fucking ass.
If you hadn't called him fucking sneezed fat at him every time, he probably wouldn't have been so ecstatic to catch you.
I will say, in my defense, I did something pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
like I didn't immediately try and hide the smoke. In fact, I took another drag of it before I put it out after he caught me.
That is pretty dope.
Which I thought was like, that was my fuck authority anarchy symbol on my fucking leather jacket moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
But he didn't get what he wanted. He wanted me suspended. He was telling me shit. He was like, they're going to suspend your fucking ass. I got you now. You got cigarettes on campus. You're smoking. That's drugs. You're doing drugs on campus. That's automatic suspension. And I just kind of like, well, I was like, whatever. And he took me to the vice principal. Caught him smoking back on the loading dock. He like gave the whole fucking goon report and then laughed. And the VP was like, Mr. Parkey, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, he caught me. I came back from lunch and I smoked a cigarette back there and I shouldn't have done it. And he was like, you're not in here a whole lot. You don't cause trouble. I'm not going to bust you out for this, but don't bring cigarettes on my campus anymore. I was like, yes, sir. And I didn't. I just left them in my car from then on out. But Fat Richard was mad. I could tell he was mad the next day when I showed up for for school.
That's great, dude.
Yeah. I walked by his ass. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, now it's cops. So he'd have just been like, smoking on campus, huh? Smoking. Get down! Boom! Boom! Boom!
Yeah.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
Stop resisting! Stop resisting!
Put the cigarette out in your fucking eye. He resisted.
Let's look at crime in the U.S. TJ. You know what? We need all these police, all this police spending, so we got a lot of crime. And you could make that argument for a while. Here, look, the 1960s. Looks like about 1,800 for total property crime. Bam, by like 1980, damn, the year Paul was born, it's like property crime went the fuck up, dude.
Yeah. Paul was born at the peak of property crime.
Dude, someone probably stole Paul's fucking crib out of his house, dude. In 1980, fuck, dude. The crime rate was...
I remember that, like, bikes would get stolen a lot in my town. I had 2 bicycles just taken out of my backyard at various times in my childhood. So, yeah, and that counts as both property crime and burglary. So
there you go. Amen.
So after World War II, crime rates increased in the United States, peaking from the 1970s to the early 1990s. During that time, violent crime nearly quadrupled between 1960 and its peak in 1991. Property crime more than doubled over the same time period. So there are a number of different theories as to why crime started declining steadily since the 1990s. But there's the only one you ever hear talked about in the mainstream media is more police.
Right.
And that's primarily due, especially in modern American culture, because of Bill Clinton's 1994 act of, I forget, I didn't pull it, but he basically passed an act where they increased, like, remember, they're going to hire 100,000 new police officers to be on our streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they primarily credit that with, but that was in the 1990s, like it was like 1994. So this drop started happening in 1991. So crediting more police seems a little silly there because that act wasn't passed for another full 3 years, and crime was already in decline at that time. Oh, man.
I've also heard that it's the particular enforcement against cocaine that did this, because like in the 70s and peaking in the 80s, cocaine was like rampant and drug gangs killed each other in the fucking streets constantly. And there was a lot of theft and a lot of fucking burglary and shit to support habits. And there was like a huge crackdown in the 80s on fucking cocaine and cocaine dealing that made it hard to get. And a lot of people credit that with this like decrease in crime as well.
Yeah,
I don't know if I agree, but I've heard it said.
I mean, of course, people are going to contribute to, they did more policing, but it's also the very fact that those things were criminalized to begin with. They created a black market, and if you want them to be criminalized, the criminal penalties were draconian, a rock of crack cocaine, giving someone 19, 25 years in prison. I mean, those things are destructive to the community. I mean, the communities that had those problems, we already saw were basically victims of, they're not going to fund social services for these communities. They're going to harshly penalize drug use, which is rampant in poorer areas like that. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. You know what I mean? The conditions are so bad. There's so little governmental support to help them that it's just like, these people just kind of defend for themselves. Oh, but by the way, they're going to be constantly surveilled. You
guys ever had a car stolen or broken into?
Yeah, when we were kids, not kids, but like, I think I was like 11. Our stepdad Steve's truck was stolen out of the driveway because he left his keys in it.
Yep.
Yeah, and then when the cops showed up, they basically yelled at him, and we're like,
"You left the goddamn keys in the truck."
Basically, Steve said something along the lines of like, "Oh, I'm glad he was like trying to joke with the cop and be like, typical like turn on the Steve charm, be like, wow, you're a physically fit dude. I've seen a lot of fat cops around. Ha ha ha. I'm glad they didn't send one of those fat cops." He's like, "Are you insulting my fellow officers?" So he got super pissed and shit.
Uh-oh.
Steve was trying to like get on the guy's good
side. I can't imagine somebody not appreciating Steve's humor. That's a shocking thing to me.
Yeah, well, it's a cop, so what are you gonna do?
Especially a cop. That's just hard to believe.
They didn't like it, so go figure.
Steve has like a relentless humor. He'll pick out the person that's most uncomfortable with his humor and target that person with his humor all night. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think it was fun for him. But in that particular instance, I think he was trying to ingratiate himself with the cop by like complimenting him. But I guess he shouldn't have done it at the expense of other cops because the cop got upset.
When it's with cops, dude, it's yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
No, sir.
That's what you got to do if you don't want to get fucked with. The cops don't want to be all chummy and shit.
Yep, guess not.
Dude, I had to deal with a cop when that stupid woman hit us in Florida. And the cop they basically sent was just like a Chad bro. It's like, all right. Yeah, dude, my legs are fucking killing me, man. Fucking leg day yesterday. Yeah. This wreck here, like, what happened? And it's all like, this woman's a moron and hit my car. It's basically my explanation. Then they took our IDs and it was like, all right, here's the shit. He was really dumb though, because I'm like, here's my insurance card. He's like, he looked at it, it's like, man, you're lucky. I'm like, why am I lucky? He's all like, your insurance just kicked in today. It's like, no, it didn't. The policy renews. Like, don't you know how insurance works? I didn't say that, of course. He's a cop, a fucking state trooper. I was kind of just like, haha, yeah. Like, what the fuck's this guy retarded?
Dude, dealing with the cops in car accidents and shit is such a pain in the ass. I got rear-ended when I lived in San Antonio, and it wasn't like a horrible wreck, obviously. My car wasn't like, the physical structure of it wasn't fucked up, but my bumper was pretty munched. And the dude behind me just wasn't paying attention at an off ramp that was slow, and he just ran into me. And I looked at the shit and I just said, like, fuck it. Just go, man. It's cool. Like, I don't care. I don't need, I'd rather just let you go and fucking deal with this myself than deal with the cops and shit. He was like, seriously?
He was stoked. He's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, just go, dude.
Oh yeah.
I just won't even do it. Like, unless it had, like, if my car would have been fucking munched to the point where I couldn't drive it or some shit, but it wasn't, just a big fucking dent.
I remember one time
scratch on the bumper.
I had a similar thing happen from the other side.
Yeah.
Where I was, some fucking person had driven into a restaurant that I used to go to.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it like, what the fuck happened there? And while I was looking at that, I crashed into the person in front of me.
I know, I was in the passenger seat with you.
Yeah, Scotty was there. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I just hit that person. Oh, my God, what am I going to do? And then this fucking, like, coked out looking bitch comes out of the car. I'm like, oh, man. And she comes up to me. She's like, this never happened. We ain't got no insurance. This never happened. I'm like, okay, yeah, it never happened. Cool.
That was awesome, dude. That's like the best wreck I've ever been in. Like everyone just agreed, like it didn't happen.
This never did. Everyone just fucking keep going. This never fucking happened.
Because you didn't. I mean, you hit her going like 5 miles per hour, dude. I mean, there was no need to involve
it wasn't
anybody.
But a lot of people would have fucking, especially when I'm at fault because I hit her. She didn't fucking do anything wrong traffic wise. So
I mean, yeah, she could have got out of the car and did the fucking chicken on the ground.
Oh, my neck.
The joke we have here is, I'm gonna call Morris Bart, which is some personal injury attorney in Louisiana.
I've been really lucky. I've never been driving in an accident. Like, I've been passengers in cars that have been in accidents multiple times, but I've never, as the driver, been in an accident, except for, that one that I didn't report. Well, no. I've been in accidents as a driver, but never something that I was at fault at. Like, stopped at a stop sign and then somebody gets T-boned in the intersection type of shit.
Yeah, dude, I got fucking slammed, but
so I've been lucky, or careful, I guess you could say, because I haven't gotten in a wreck.
I would say, let me see. I don't know how many fucking times.
I was present for one of them, the most hilarious one of them of all.
Oh yeah,
the Gurgi episode, TJ.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Oh my God, whatever. Moving on.
Okay. Sorry.
I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to fucking strangle TJ when I think about that every fucking time. So shit, guys. So we've seen that increased police spending probably doesn't lower crime rates. And that crime rates have been decreasing for decades, despite what people believe. Oh, man. That's kind of crazy. Nor does the number of police per capita seem to have an impact on crime. Well, what about jail, guys? What about when they arrest people? At least the police are really effective. I mean, look, they arrest a lot of people in this country. I mean, they're keeping the streets safe, right?
Yeah.
So approximately 10.5 million arrests are made by the police every year. But fewer than 5% are for violent crimes. That's crazy. The majority of all arrests are for non-violent offenses, such as drug offenses, which make up about 20% of arrests. Furthermore, over 80% of all arrests are for low-level offenses, such as disorderly conduct, drug abuse violations, traffic violations, local ordinance violations, and failure to pay fines. Crazy. The majority of, quote, drug abuse violation charges are for drug possession, most often marijuana. Between 1980 and 2016, the number of drug offense arrests have risen by 170%. Furthermore, the majority of arrests are dismissed, although the exact number is hard to find due to the lack of integration between court data and police data. So it's hard to even really know, but the vast majority of arrests lead to nothing.
So what I'm hearing here is that 95% of times when people are arrested, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, for the most part, yeah. That's,
okay.
I mean, around that number, I would say.
All right.
The 10.5 million, 5 are for violent crimes.
Gotcha.
So if you consider everything else non-violent offenses, such as some dude was getting stoned, if you consider that a major crime, then I guess not.
You're under arrest. Oh, thank God that fucking criminal's off the streets.
I was going to do a section about mass incarceration, but the fact
That's
is...
like its own episode, right? Yeah.
That's his own episode and a half, because a lot of things people even believe about it that I've heard talked about are kind of wrong. So
Cool.
there's a lot of interesting shit there.
Neat.
So how about national crime rate?
When
this is the
people
public's
are wrong.
perception. This
So
is what
let's
people
see.
feel about crime. Like this isn't really, look at the numbers. Like, what do you feel? Is there more crime? Is there less crime? So if you see here in 1989, a lot of fucking people thought, man, crime is on the rise. And they had a point there. Crime was on the rise at that time. But back by 1992, when crime had started to decline, we still have about the same number of people.
Right.
And that number has pretty much just stayed consistent, whereas more people usually thinking crime is increasing.
It looks like the perception of the amount of crime in the country kind of went down. Like, pretty much leading up to like 2001, it looks like actually 9/11 made people fucking... I don't know if it was 9/11 itself or what, or if it's just a coincidence, but it seems like around that time, people started to feel like there's more crime again, even though there wasn't.
Yeah, I mean,
I can almost guarantee you
there was like a heightened sense of paranoia and shit. I mean, I just don't want to fucking make that statement without knowing for a fact, but I'm pretty confident as well that that's probably what it is.
I mean, I told the story. I was an adult when 9/11 happened, and I didn't know a single person that didn't think that America was under attack, that there were fucking criminals and terrorists hiding everywhere. So yeah, dude, the paranoia was fucking real everywhere.
Yeah, and so you see this big spike in the public perception of how much crime is going on, but there was no actual spike in crime during that time. So
no,
right.
And look at time of the Great Recession. Around that time, suddenly, oh man, the economy's bad. Ooh, crime must be going much higher. We have way more crime. 74% of people saying crime is going up.
Crime's up. Crime's up.
No factual basis for that. Crime was not going up.
Was it up? It wasn't.
So government statistics, no, it's been declining since the 1990s. Government stats have shown a general decline in crime rates since the 1990s, but Americans have been sort of loath to accept that concept that crime is decreasing, which really they are, because when you actually look at the people when they're polled, they say generally crime is going up. Now, there's been a little bit of change in recent years, which is...
Well, that's because we pump... I mean, look at the fucking media that America consumes, though. Like, everything in our fucking media
True
apparatus...
crime.
Yeah, everything in our media apparatus would fucking suggest to us crime is rampant, crime is everywhere, every fucking second of every day, crime.
If it bleeds, it leads, you know.
Plus, you got all these people that fucking, all these rural people that just fucking are just fucking shitting their pants with terror over the city. Like, oh my God, the city. That's where the fucking crime is. All the crime, all the criminally people are in the city doing their crime. Pass the meth.
The most visible change for me in people's attitudes towards the amount of crime and the general safety of the streets is Halloween, which is just totally ruined now.
Oh, it's done, dude. In a lot of places, Halloween is fucking just dead. It's trunk or treat.
Yeah, but like even in places where kids are still going door to door, it's like they're chaperoned by parents with big fucking heavy like flashlights and shit now. It's like it was never that way when I mean, yeah, maybe if you were like a little fucking kid, like you were 5 or 6 or something, your mom and dad maybe were with you, but like they're like 8 and 10-year-olds, like big flocks of them with big group of parents watching over them. It's just like,
dude, the last like 3 or 4 years, me and TJ ever went trick-or-treating. It was like, here are your bags, go. It wasn't like, we're going to watch you. It's like, go get candy, bye. There was never any implication.
Yeah, this was during the fucking the 90s, you know? Early 90s, at the fucking height of crime. You know?
Well, at the point where I'm talking about, crime would have been going down.
Okay,
so 60% of Americans
crime
say
is
there's
still
more
high,
crime.
higher than it is now.
Shut up, TJ. 60% of Americans say there's more crime in the U.S. this year than last. So this is for 2017. The FBI's annual report shows a drop in national violent crime rate in 15 of the 20 years from 1998 to 2017, with the overall rate falling from 568 crimes per 100,000 persons in 1998 to 383 crimes per 100,000 person last year. So, I mean, like, but you still have this, I'm saying, so like, even though the crime rates have been decreasing, and I can beat this in your head to death, but it's just kind of fucking crazy. Because only, and in fact, in this chart you're seeing here, only once in 2001 did a higher percentage say crime was decreasing, 43%, than increasing.
Yeah, I see that little moment there.
I'm telling you, dude. I was talking about it on a ideology the other day, and I don't even think people appreciate yet what a huge cultural shift happened the moment that those fucking towers fell. Like there was a gigantic shift in this country towards paranoia and tolerance of loss of liberty for the illusion of safety.
Please,
and all of
daddy
that shit.
government, save us.
Yeah.
Save us, daddy government, please.
And what's interesting now is like, it really is security theater, because though a majority of Americans have said since the turn of the century that crime has been increasing and is a very serious or extremely serious problem, they have shown less concern about it than they did in the 1990s. In that decade, crime often topped the list of what Americans saw as the nation's most important problem. Now it is seldom mentioned by more than 3% of those polled. Throughout the 1990s, it ranked as one of the issues that mattered most to voters. In recent national elections, it has not been prominent enough to be an issue measured in election polls.
Damn.
So all this stuff has gone up, where it's not even what Americans care about.
So more people think crime is a problem. I don't know. Americans are confusing. They don't make any goddamn sense.
So here's a big deal, and this is what a lot of people will probably talk about. So, look, man, defund the police is crazy. Why don't we just reform the police? Let's just fix the police. We don't need to fucking do this defunding thing. We don't need to fucking fuck with that.
Is this the right image? This isn't the right image.
This isn't. We wanted the next one. Yeah. Yep, here you go. Let's just reform them. You know what? I know what we'll do, guys. I got an idea. We will make the fucking police wear body cameras. That's the answer to all these problems. So after Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson in 2014, there was a nationwide push for cops to have body cameras. It was like, hey, you know what? If we give these guys body cameras, it's going to improve police accountability. It's going to make sure what these cops are doing. We're going to see their interactions with the public. And if the cop is telling the truth will come out. If the guy that's suspected of the crime is telling the truth will come out. The body camera is going to solve it.
Yeah. I mean, we've pushed body cameras as a solution on this show before. Yeah. Or one of the things that needs to be done.
I mean, it can't just be hang a body cam on them. There has to be stiff penalties for any tampering. If the body camera is not on during an interaction with a citizen, there has to be like stiff penalties, including the loss of your job.
So there's been an extensive study done of more than 2,000 police officers published in 2017 that found that body cameras had almost zero effect on deterring officers from acting with unnecessary force, and as evidenced by the recent police shooting of David McAtee in Louisville, Kentucky. You pull that image up, TJ? Thank you. So this is actually the governor of Kentucky talking about this. Governor Beshear called for an investigation into the shooting of David here, and said body camera footage should be released by Monday evening, acknowledging that people may not trust claims made by police over what happened. Well, that's a fair point. I'm not asking people to trust our account, Beshear said. So it's like, all right, that's a good fucking point. Why should we? Let's see the evidence. But later on, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher said that the police did not have their body cameras turned on. Oh, the governor of the state has an egg on his face because the cops just somehow, when they killed this dude, didn't have the body cameras turned on.
So see, that's why they're ineffective.
Yeah.
Because it is not coupled with like the loss of your job and prosecution if you turn your body camera off.
Right. I mean, like there needs to be like you can't. It's not enough to just have the body cameras. I don't think a body camera is a cure-all. But I feel like body cameras would be much more effective at deterring police brutality if, A, they were not able to turn the fucking things off and were actually penalized if they did. And if something happens, like someone gets shot and their body camera happens to be off, then I think that should be fucking counted as evidence of their fucking guilt.
Yes. I mean, there are various ways you could do it, but it would have to be pretty draconian. Like if it was every interaction you have on duty is on body cam, you are responsible for the maintenance of this unit. If it is malfunctioning, it's your responsibility to put on a new one, etc., and train everybody to use them and get the fucking technology better to where they're more durable and they can hold more hours of footage. So there's no fucking excuse. And in that case, you would see shit dropping because like I can't remember where it was. It's like Santa Barbara, California or something did this shit. And it wasn't necessarily, it was accompanied with a drop in crime, like just an overall drop, but that was attributed to a drop in complaints against the police or concurrent with.
I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read that about, was it Vallejo, California? It was somewhere.
It was one of those. It's like a Southern California kind of beach town.
Yeah, but I know you're saying, like use of force was like 84% down or something. It was like,
right.
Yeah.
And crime was down, complaints against the police were down, everything was fine, but they had really strict rules for their police on body cams. And that's how they enforced it. Every interaction with a fucking civilian without fail was on cam. And so there's no controversy anymore. There's no excuse for it anymore. Make cops wear a fucking helmet so that their helmet can be part of that fucking body camera.
The reality is that there needs to be, instead of just being a recommendation, there need to be laws and guidelines and rules and things like that enforcing the use of these things. There's
actually not just body cams too. I don't know if you mentioned it, but there's gun cams, which take footage as soon as the trigger is pulled on a gun, and in some cases as soon as a gun is unholstered.
Yeah, I think it should just be the second it comes out of the holster, our camera should be fucking activated.
The first iterations of this and the ones that are on guns in a lot of police departments actually snap a picture every time the trigger is pulled, but the newer ones turn on as soon as it's removed from the holster. And so whatever the gun is pointed at is also, you know what I mean?
I mean, look, if there's any technology that can give us a better picture of what happened, then I don't see why it wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's if a body camera is like some little thing that's like, okay, here's your body camera, here's how you turn it off, and if you don't want to wear it, you don't have to. Like, if that's not going to do shit, obviously.
It's allowing them to turn it off at all is the problem.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're not engaged in a citizen thing, because it lets them fall back on the, well, things happen so fast, I didn't think to turn on my body cam. Like, you can't leave it up to them. No. When they show up at the precinct for their briefing in the morning, they get their cam and it's on and it's tested before they leave to their car that their camera is recording and broadcasting and everything and functioning properly. And they don't get to take it off. It does, even to take a piss or a shit. I'm sorry. You want to be a cop? Your pisses and shits are going to be part of the fucking public record. Now, as long as all you're doing in the bathroom is pissing and shitting, you don't have anything to worry about. But if you're in there bracing a hooker for cocaine or some shit, well,
it's a different story.
Yeah, your entire work day will be on the
every second of it, because there's no other way around it. If they can turn it off and say, I had to take a shit and then this happened and oops, I fucking just didn't think to do it. It was the last moment. I had my gun out already and I shot him. Then there's going to be no effect, because that's going to be the story every goddamn time. Every fucking police shooting is going to be preceded by a piss that the cop had to take. Unless a private moment that he wanted to take because he got a phone call from his wife who's pregnant.
Unless the footage exonerates the police, then it will be available.
Of course. It's always available. If it shows somebody pulling a gun on the police and the police shooting first, that for some reason the body cam is always on.
Yeah, you guys notice that?
Oh, yeah.
If somebody exonerates them, it's always available.
But that footage just vanishes when it doesn't, though.
Yep, but when something goes wrong, it's just like they're always forgot. Oops. Or the camera malfunctioned. Whoops. Or the camera was covered by part of the officer's uniform and unusable.
Yeah, but you know what? So body cams, like we said, without regulations and guidelines and laws to basically sort of regulate the use of them, they can be, though, in theory, in the spirit of them, very effective, can be highly ineffective.
The way they've been applied has been pretty useless, though.
Yeah. The NYPD banned chokeholds more than 2 decades ago, which didn't stop Officer Daniel Pantiello from holding Eric Garner in one until he stopped breathing.
Yeah.
So this is actually banned.
He suffered,
been banned.
He suffered really bad repercussions for doing that, though, right?
Oh, yeah. He was, after 5 years, eventually fired.
Oh, okay. Cool. Fired. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
5 years for murder. Yeah,
By the way, this guy was choked to death for selling loose cigarettes.
Yep.
A horrible crime. If there ever was one.
The worst crime there is.
So, just like we talked about, a low-level crime that most police should probably
It's not even a crime.
Well, it is actually illegal in New York, but the thing
but it shouldn't be.
At the most this should be, if you even want to say it should be a crime, should be a civil fine. Or if you think most people would just be like, you can't sell cigarettes here, I'm going to, okay, then we're going to write you a fine. Here you go. Here's your fine. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's way more effective.
You need someone to fucking go out there and be like, you selling loose cigarettes? Choked, bitch.
Well, Eric Garner is the original I Can't Breathe, because if you watch the fucking tape, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Another reason reforms haven't been tenable, advocates say, is our old friends, the police union.
Dun, 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 dun.
I should have had that fucking queued up, huh?
They look like it, right? Don't they?
So the purpose of, of course, that's why I picked this picture, of police unions is to, quote, win members better salaries, benefits, and to protect their job security, specifically by pushing safeguards against investigation, discipline, and dismissal. Daniel DiSalvio, a political science professor at the City College of New York, writes in the Washington Post, these protections can make it difficult for police chiefs to manage their forces effectively and can allow for a few bad officers to act with impunity, poisoning an entire organizational culture in the process.
That's I don't agree with that few bad apples rhetoric that was going on there.
But I want to be fair. That was the quote. So
gotcha. Yeah.
And this is another source I pulled, but I have to agree with it. BuzzFeed News notes police collective bargaining agreements protect even the most violent officers from oversight groups like civilian review boards and police internal affairs departments, making it nearly impossible to punish officers for serious wrongdoing. While Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry banned warrior training, the Minneapolis Police Union has openly defied the ban, so fuck the mayor, and now offers fear-based training valued at $55,000 to any officer who wants it for free. I think John Oliver covered this too, but I think I was just too crazy.
Yeah, I saw some of the warrior training bullshit.
So
it's like you got to be prepared when you go out there on the streets. You at war, and you need to be ready to take a life at any time. It's like, okay, yeah,
fear-based training. Like, Paul, you were on the streets.
Yeah,
you are outnumbered. It's like, look, if you don't go out there and you don't protect yourself, you're not coming home tomorrow night. Like, you know what's going to be the night you don't come home? It's just shit like that. It's like, you're not coming home unless you fucking kill. Unless you're ready to fucking amp this shit up.
Meanwhile, I don't even think cops are in the top 10 most dangerous jobs in America.
I don't believe they are either. Maybe they are. I
don't believe they are. I could be mistaken. But
it is a dangerous job.
It's dangerous, and I mean, it's dangerous. But I mean, like, I don't even think it's in the top 10. I'm not even sure if it's in the top 20.
Let's see.
So I'm there right now. Logging workers are the number one. Fishers and fishing workers. Aircraft pilots and flight engineers.
Well, how's this list being determined?
Okay, well, there's a page on the methodology here. This is based on... To determine the 25 most dangerous jobs in America, 24/7 Wall Street analyzed fatal injury rates for 71 detailed occupations from the Bureau of Labor Statistics Census of Fatal Occupational Injuries Program. Injury rates were calculated as the number of fatal occupational injuries per 100,000 full-time equivalent workers, where a full-time worker is equivalent to 2,000 hours worked by an employee during the calendar year and are for 2018. Data on the number of non-fatal occupational injuries and illnesses that involve days away from work in 2018 came from the BLS Survey of Occupational Injuries and Illnesses program and are for private industry only. Data on median annual wages, and so it seems like they've got a method. The methodology sounds fine.
Okay, yeah, like that's pretty. Like, I feel like it's got smacked down there. It's like, here's our data. It's like, oh shit.
Okay, so logging workers. Okay, 2018. If you want to know the injury rate, it's 97.6 per 100,000.
No, that's the worst one, or is that number 25?
That's number one. Fatal injuries. Total injuries in 2018: 56 fatal injuries, 1,040 non-fatal injuries.
So just go down the line. Just
most common cause of fatal accident. I'm looking for them. Okay, so here's the number one. I'm looking to see if police are on this top 25 list. Logging workers are number one. Fishermen are number two. Aircraft pilots and flight engineers are number three. I don't know why aircraft pilots are so easily injured, but maybe the flight engineers.
It probably includes helicopter pilots and military pilots.
True. Roofers are number 4.
No shock there.
Refuse and recyclable material collectors are number 5. So then let's see what number 6 is. Number 6 is driver/sales workers and truck drivers. Number 7 is farmers, ranchers, and other agricultural managers. Number 8 is structural iron and steel workers. Number 9 is first-line supervisors of construction trades and extraction workers. Number 10 is first-line supervisors of landscaping, lawn services, and groundskeeping work. We still haven't seen any cops. We're through the top 10. Number 11 is electrical power line installers and repairers. Number 12 is grounds maintenance workers. Number 13 is miscellaneous agriculture workers. Number 14 is helpers in the construction trade. Number 15 is first-line supervisors of mechanics, installers, and repairers. Number 16 is police and sheriff's officer patrollers, finally. So police, number 16, after all those other professions, and yet how many of those other professionals go to work every day and are filled with fear, like, this could be your last day on the job.
And how many are trained that way, too?
Right. Like, how many are trained to be, like, how many of them are pumped full of fear all the time of, like, how dangerous what they're doing is, you know?
Well, you know what? At least in the case of someone being a logger, there's actually like some fucking truth to it. Like, man, I'm in the most dangerous fucking job in the fucking country. That's
right.
crazy.
I mean, you definitely want to let them know there's risk and like have them be cautious and shit.
But like even in that profession, which is obviously dangerous, pumping the people full of constant fear is not the way to do it.
Even then, it's not the right method.
You're going to be crushed every morning when you show up for work. You get to watch a logging accident video where a bunch of people are maimed and crushed and shit by trees.
Yeah, that chainsaw of yours, it's gonna go back. It's gonna hit a fucking root or something. Slam back, hit you in the head, and kill you.
So
like,
hold on.
Dude.
So if you look at police, their injury rates are about 13.7 per 100,000, with 108 fatal injuries and 380 non-fatal injuries in 2018. If you look at the logging workers, once again, 97.6 per 100,000 with 56 fatal injuries and 1,040 non-fatal injuries. So their injury rates are much, much higher. Seems like there was a little less fatal injuries, though. So I guess that's something.
Sure, you got to take that into account. I mean, there's definitely...
but like if you look at roofers, they have like 96 fatal injuries and 2,060 non-fatal injuries. But of course, you got to take into account how many people are doing each of these jobs as well,
right?
Because there's way less logging workers than there are cops in
and
America,
and non-fatal injuries include injuries that make people fucking quadriplegics and shit. So,
but I assume there's probably way less logging workers in America than there are cops. So the fact that there's 56 fatal injuries for them and 108 for cops, I don't think is that significant considering
this is also true.
I'm sure there's like a fraction of the amount of logging workers as there are cops. Just knowing how many cops there are in this fucking country.
What about the? Oh, go ahead, Paul.
I was gonna say when it comes to the union, the reason there are similar problems in teachers' unions when it comes to getting rid of teachers that are just bad. When unions were gutted, for some reason, the arm of the government, the police, were exempted. A lot of that is due to their perception amongst people as the absolutely most essential workers in our society, which I think is an overblown representation. But I think most people would think that when it comes to your average citizen job, the cop, that whole thin blue line rhetoric, right? So if they threaten a walkout, a national walkout, they threaten pandemonium in the streets just simply because their presence isn't there. And teachers hold a similar type of power. If they do a national walkout, where do you send your kids? Kids' education stops. It's an immediate action drawing act. And the fact that there's no national union overseeing it allows these unions, police officers unions and correctional officers unions and teachers unions, to protect and incubate bad actors within their ranks, because there's no oversight whatsoever. And it just becomes like a bullies club, and a symbiotic one at that too, because the political parties are happy to have these unions and happy to have their support.
I mean, because organizations like this, people are going to mainly be in lockstep. It's like, we're voting for this administration.
There's no corporation. See, that's the thing. There's no corporation to extort for money in a police officers union or a teachers union. It's the people.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why they're allowed to persist. And that's why all other commercial unions are in decline or non-existent anymore. Because nobody's coming to corporations and going, hey, you got to pay the cops more. It's coming to the taxpayers and the people that live in the communities where these cops operate.
So they're just, of course, they're just fine with it. That to them is no, oh, you're just going to squeeze people? We don't give a shit. You're not going to squeeze businesses though, right? Because then we're going to have a problem. Nope. You guys are fine. We'll in fact, we're going to patrol and make sure your businesses are kept nice and safe for you.
Yep. So it's just a good old boys club, and not an indictment of collective bargaining. It's an indictment of when collective bargaining is allowed to persist amongst arms of the government when it doesn't exist amongst workers. So you get Walmart workers that can't get health care, and cops that literally, they got to work for 10 years and they got a lifetime pension.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a disparity there.
It's also the only union that no conservatives ever seem to give a shit about. Generally, unions, bad idea. Police unions, they're all right.
Well, that's because by and large, they're donors to the Republican Party. Like, the Republican Party courts law enforcement.
I love this portrait of Lincoln just kind of hanging out over Trump, just like with this look of like contemplation, like, what have we come to?
Yeah, this will be looked back on as like one of the sadder photos ever taken in American history, probably.
So let's get the political angle on this. What are the major political parties saying? So this is Donald Trump, of course.
Well, let's hear from our two major. We got two guys running for president right now. Let's see where they both stand, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have some of the true leaders in our country of law enforcement, and that's what they've done. They've enforced the laws. They've done a fantastic job of it. We have among the best numbers we've ever had in terms of recorded history, certainly, but this has been a very strong year for less crime. Let's put it that way, less crime. And there's a reason for less crime. That's because we have great law enforcement. I'm very proud of them. There won't be defunding. There won't be dismantling of our police. And there's not going to be any disbanding of our police. Our police have been letting us live in peace, and we want to make sure we don't have any bad actors in there. And sometimes you'll see some horrible things.
Who's this us that the police are letting live in peace? I want to know.
Yeah.
I think, the billionaires, the
Trump family,
the Trumps, all the super rich families like the Waltons and shit.
They've been letting us live in peace.
The people living behind community gates, they're living in peace.
We need a call out culture that can just interrupt the president and show him like footage of that dude. You remember that dude at UC Berkeley that those kids were protesting, and he just walked by and pepper sprayed them as they were prone on the ground.
Yeah, it's like, here you go, go in peace, brothers.
What about this, Mr. President? Is this what living in peace looks like? Just a montage of police brutality and, shootings, shooting people in the back.
And it never ends.
There's some great compilations of just like police violence from just these protests that have come out.
Of course. He's full of shit.
The Channel Humanist Report, who's usually like a commentary channel, didn't even put commentary, just like cut together like 4 or 5 minutes of just like raw footage of like various instances of police brutality just from these recent protests.
The shit that I've seen speaks for itself.
I've seen people just like stand out there holding signs, and then the cops walk up and spray them in the face. I've seen people that were just like standing around and then cop cars drive by and just pepper spray them, even though they're not doing anything. We've seen multiple instances.
I saw a dude who, did we watch it on Flash Friday, whose wife was pregnant?
Yeah.
And he was trying to get her to the hospital or some shit. And he stepped out and he's yelling at the cops. My wife is pregnant. She's pregnant. And they started hitting him with pepper balls.
Yeah, they weren't even protesters. They were just trying to drive somewhere. And the cops just fucking lit up their car with these like pepper balls or whatever.
They were trying to deliver food.
Yeah,
they hit him.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, that's right. They were out delivering food.
They were out there doing like waiter or fucking Uber Eats or some shit.
Yeah, that's all they were doing.
And they were trying to deliver some food to somebody, and the fucking cops just fucking opened fire.
They hit
with
this
these
dude and his pregnant wife with a bunch of pepper balls.
Yeah, he jumps out of his car. He fucking like tries to like let them know there's a pregnant woman in the car, and that they're not protesters or whatever the fuck.
I saw a dude in Seattle get hit with a water cannon on one of these big tank things so hard that it knocked him out, and then they kept spraying him while he was clearly fucking out on the ground with this fucking high pressure water cannon that'll like knock you 8 feet back. It's so fucking powerful.
Kind of crazy how the police have all these tools, and the main use for them seems to be suppressing the population.
Yeah,
kind of crazy that the police were so ready when all these protests happened.
It's almost like they were It's almost like they were ready for some massive instances of civil unrest in this country, and were like preparing for it all along.
Oh, dude. Well, because Taylor was in the National Guard for 6 years, and she talked about like the training they did with like, here's how you suppress the population kind of shit. Like we have to do mob training now.
They've been doing that for like the National Guard has been doing that since fucking colonial days. What was that? What was that time where fucking wasn't it George Washington, the first fucking president, right? Rounded up a bunch of federalized troops.
The whiskey rebellion you're talking about? Yeah.
Rounded up a bunch of federal troops to use against American citizens. So the very first president did this. You know what I mean? So it's like this is not new tactics here. The cops are goons of the establishment. They're goons of the government. And when there's an uprising against that government or accusing that government of something rightfully or petitioning that government for a redress of a grievance, the goons show up in force. And if the frontline goons, the cops aren't enough, then the fucking National Guard comes out. Happened in Watts in the 60s. They shot people in the fucking streets in LA in the 60s. So this is not new.
Recently, but 99, I say 99.9, but let's go with 99% of them are great people, and they've done jobs that are record setting. So our crime statistics are at a level that they haven't been at. And we're going to work and we're going to talk about ideas how we can do it better and how we can do it, if possible, in a much more gentle fashion.
Trump just make it basically the bad apple argument. It's the go-to.
The police
are
good.
The bad apples.
Maybe there's a bad cop here and there, but for the most part, 99.9999999999999% of police.
The only bad cops in America, TJ, were the 4 cops that killed George Floyd, or any cops that were found to have killed a black person. Those are the bad cops. All the other cops, above board, totally good, would never harm a fly.
Yep,
wonderful police, love them.
But it's crazy how guys
love our police officers, don't we, folks?
We're talking about all these places. It's not like they're all limited to one geographic location, right? Like there's just one part of the country, there's one place where all this bad stuff with these cops is happening. Everywhere else, there's no problem with the police, right? But except for the fact that it happens all over the nation.
No.
So it's almost like it's a systemic failure there. It's almost like that could be what's going on.
Look how lost he looks.
Which one? They both look pretty lost. Anyway, but one's not running for president. One's just a really bad.
So this is basically Joe Biden's answer for why we should defund the police. Like reforms have failed. Maybe we should just defund the police.
I hate Trevor Noah, by the way. Anyway,
can I say something about Trevor Noah before you start this?
Please don't.
The dude got the bummest rap in comedy.
Yeah, maybe.
He had to replace Jon Stewart, who, in my mind, and you may not agree, he's basically a national treasure. He's like, the way people used to look at fucking like George Burns or fucking
Johnny
Carson. Know what I mean? He's that level of fucking truth teller in society. He's up there on Chappelle's, stage, and he has to step into those shoes. There's nobody in the fucking world that could. Now he, not to defend him too much, he sucks at it particularly, but
yeah,
I mean, come on, look what they asked him to do.
Yeah. All right. Well, whatever.
Homelessness, etc.
Well, I think there are a lot of changes they can take place, period, without having to defund police completely. Here's what I think's happened. You have well over 80% of the American people going, whoa, I didn't know this. I didn't know this was happening. I don't believe police should be defunded, but I think the conditions should be placed upon them where departments are having to take significant reforms.
That's bullshit.
We should set up a national use of force standard.
That's complete and total fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it's
80% of people didn't know this was happening. Bull fucking shit.
His argument makes no sense because at first he's going to say, well, it's mainly local funding. And then he says, oh, we'll pull federal funding later on. But just listen to it.
Okay.
A little bit more.
Sign on to it, then in fact, they don't get any of the federal money. In addition, that they have to demonstrate that they release all the data that relates to misconduct by police. That all has to be sent to the Justice Department.
not actually reforming it. They just have to tell the truth about the bad shit they do. Okay, great. That's going to really change.
Which, I got to be honest with you, that point in a vacuum, I don't disagree with. I think all police fucking logs and shit that aren't part of active ongoing investigations should be public and searchable and easy to find for anybody who wants to read them. Any misconduct by a police officer should be in a database, just like the fucking sex offender database.
Oh no, I agree with that. I'm just saying that just simply documenting it is not enough. But
no, it isn't. You're right,
because that doesn't deal with the issue. That's like reporting on the issue. Like, oh man, this bad shit is happening. But I do agree with you. You do need that, but that's just one part of it.
That has to be part of it, right?
Yeah.
Should I play more, Scotty?
Yeah. Oh yeah, play a little bit
more.
To
the Justice Department nationally, they don't get funding. But as it relates to, for example, mental illness and homelessness and drug abuse and the like, many changes we can make. But for example, my daughter is a social worker. She has her master's in social work. The idea that she's going to respond by herself to a 911 call that says that someone is overdosing or someone has a mental problem and they're acting out, the idea of going by themselves is not rational to expect. Conversely, the cops shouldn't go alone. The cops should go with people who are mental health experts.
Do you not think, though, there's an opportunity to have somebody that's not?
Should I keep going?
That's it.
Okay.
That's all I want. That's all I wanted to play.
So it's I got to be honest with you, and maybe you disagree. It's basically Trump's position.
It's not far off. It's it's marginally more nuanced, I guess, but it's still
it's the we're going to reform it from inside. We're going to put these nebulous federal restrictions on them, and if they don't comply, well, we don't give them any federal funding.
It seems almost more like a difference in tone more than a difference in substance. Like Trump's a little bit more ass kissy to the police. Biden's a little more ass kissy to the fucking black community and all the people who are concerned about police violence. But at the end of the day, they're both kind of saying we're not really going to do much.
I can tell you, police funding has been a national issue before. It isn't always in an electoral season, but clearly it's going to be in this one. And it's always the same. There's never anybody making an argument to actually systemically change and fundamentally change police and their relationship with the people that they fucking protect and serve. It's always oh, we're going to root out the bad apples. Oh, we're going to limit federal funding to police departments. We've heard all this shit before. It doesn't work. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what option people have, because right now people aren't happy with that by and large.
Well,
but we have no option.
Let's say so they asked voters, here, they say, okay, defund the police is an unpopular slogan, but there is support for the underlying premise. Voters were asked whether they support the defund the police movement and redirecting local police funding to community development programs. So defund the police. So all voters, according to Morningstar Consult and Politico, 28% support that. 14% went, I don't fucking know. I have no opinion because I'm stupid. and 58% were going, no, boo, no, don't defund the police. So for whites responding to the poll, 25% supported it, 12% had no clue, and 63% opposed. Black voters, 50% approve or support.
Yeah.
25% not really sure.
I don't know.
25% no.
No way.
If we look at urban, 39% supported it, 13% didn't know, about 49% opposed. Suburban, 28% in support, 13% didn't know. A lot of 13s. 59% no. Rural about the same. But so basically, the less dense the population, the more people don't like it. They're like, no, we need police, especially in these rural areas. They love the police there. How about redirecting funding to communities?
Yeah, because policing is so different in fucking rural areas too.
I was gonna say
they don't even understand what the fuck the issue is because they're fucking the police in a lot of rural areas is like that's old Officer Jim and shit.
Yeah, they're friends with you and shit. You wave at them at the fucking grocery store and you know their families and stuff.
And they're from your community usually. Yeah. They're not fucking some fucking asshole that's brought in from some other community that doesn't give a fuck about you and views you as the enemy. So, of course, it's easy for your fucking rural cornbread ass to fucking think that way, you stupid fuck. Sorry.
Damn, TJ.
You always apologize when you say something that's fucking way true.
I don't know.
I view it as him apologizing to me. Because he's like, oh shit, I went on a rant. I don't think he's apologizing to the rural corn-fed whatever motherfucker he said.
But this is the part that pisses me off the most because the fucking poll numbers for defund the police and redirect police funding to communities should be exactly the goddamn same because that's what defund the police fucking means.
I know, I love this. So redirect police funding to communities. All voters, 43%, yeah. 15%, I don't know. 42% opposed. So actually, if you look at those poll numbers, it could go either fucking way with that for all voters. White 40%, black 61%, white people opposed 46%, 14% didn't know, black 20% don't know, no opinion, 18% fuck it, no, don't redirect that funding, and of course, urban areas 56%, yeah. So actually, a majority feel in cities we should redirect.
Strong
police.
Majority,
yeah.
With 10% of people that could probably be fucking convinced.
Yeah, suburban areas 43% with 14% undecided, so it's a dead heat. 43% opposed. Rural communities 33% support, so actually even higher than defund the police. 20% don't know. 47% opposed. So rural areas are the only parts of the country that actually solidly oppose.
This is why I don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand why do we bake up these fucking stupid things like defund the police that people hear it and they're instantly opposed to it when what you're actually talking about is redirecting police funding to communities, which you poll on that and people fucking are like, yeah, like way more people are like, yeah, that sounds good.
Because you need a slogan, right?
I guess.
So a better slogan for this would have been something like fund communities first. Right? It doesn't even mention the police. And sell it to because, like, listen, when you say defund, I totally agree that it's stupid, but you have to allot for the fact that your average American is fucking stupid. When they hear defund the police, there's a significant chunk of people that think that there's just going to be anarchy in the streets because there's going to be no cops anymore. Nobody's going to answer the 911 call. You know what I mean? That's what they see, and so they oppose it. So you can't even frame it that way. See, the left really needs to work on how it talks to fucking people that are on the right and in the center right.
I know that marketing people are not popular. I know Bill Hicks said they should all die, but this is why the fuck you need marketing.
Well, I don't necessarily look at this as marketing.
Well, then you're not looking at it right because it fucking is. It's absolutely marketing. It's 100%. It's 1,050,000 trillion billion zillion goddamn cozillion % marketing. Okay, you got to market the fucking idea. A slogan is marketing. This is you're trying to sell a fucking idea. This is the sales pitch. Defund the police. It doesn't sell. Redirect police funding to communities. It sells. Right. Sell what sells, motherfuckers. This is something you can learn from the machinery of capitalism, lefties. For fuck's sake. I gotta piss, but I'll be back.
I think looking at it, okay, that's fine. I think looking at it like it's just simply fucking advertising is missing the point. There's a psychological point that needs to be made on the left when it comes to these movements and naming them and how they present that is specifically meant towards bringing people that are in the center left and even the center right and people that are fucking, all the way on the right into this conversation again. Because right now it seems like the tone is, oh, we're in your face. Here's our slogan, defund the fucking police. Dude, you're never going to fucking sell that. You're never going to sell it in a lot of the communities that desperately need it. A lot of southern communities. So you have to start thinking about how people think. You have to start considering the point of view of our opponent, because we've been for so long, we've been played like opposite sides of a chess game against one another. We're white over here, you're black over there. And we got to stop looking at it like that. On the left, specifically. Like, we got to learn how to talk to people that don't believe the way that we do. And we got to learn how to sell these fucking ideas in ways that they can understand. Because I tell you what, there's a lot of fucking hardworking ass rednecks that would benefit from better labor unions or broader worker protections or more jobs in their area due to a big public works project, a big national, you know what I mean? There are a lot of fucking hardworking people that could be convinced if you spoke to them the right way. But if you come at them like, you're just a dumb fuck, we need to just tax and we need to do this, if you use all their little buzzwords and shit and play right into their hand, it's like beating your head against a brick wall to bring people around to the truth. And that's all we've been doing. We badger the other side badgers us. I'm talking the left versus right paradigm, right? Mm-hmm. Sure. Nobody's audience, we debate like, oh, I'm going to debate a righty. We have him on. Our audience berates him. We berate him. Their audience berates us. No minds are changed, or very few in the exchange. It's just a silly exercise at this point if we're not willing to look at this from a psychological standpoint.
Sorry.
So, you seem like you had an objection to TJ using the term marketing, but it sounds like a lot like what you're saying is...
Well, marketing is psychology. I say all the time, everything is psychology, and I look at it from a psychological standpoint. These people need to be, like, these ideas cannot be... It's not like you're changing the idea. For me, marketing is like, let's take this product and prototype it, and then let's send it out to people and find out what they like, and let's change it.
So you don't think about just marketing that way or using that term? It's going to be genuine. It's going to be like, oh, now I'm easily swayed by this.
No, but because I'm not talking about the message. The message in the underlying fucking product does not need to be changed, and it does not need to cater to the whims of these people who are not convinced by it. It just needs to be presented in a way that their psychology will accept. That's the game. So that's why I took issue with TJ's reduction of it to marketing, which it is. He's right. You can look at it from that capitalistic, you're just trying to sell an idea. I choose to look at it like, look, here are people that we're not engaging with on a psychological level. We've just decided this is our enemy. They believe this, we believe that, and badgering them is how we get by. You're wrong, you're stupid, you're a MAGA tard, you're a Trump tard, you're this, you're that.
Just look at how just like a simple act of like phrasing something different. Like pollsters have known this for years. Like simply how you phrase, like every pollster out there, especially like people who poll for like more dishonest and disreputable organizations, knows that you can fucking pretty much push whatever result you want just by how you ask the question, and you can also ask leading questions up to the question. to kind of prime people to think about, what you're about to ask them differently. So, I mean, I think that, we have to pay attention to the language that's being used. And like, I think when you have something that's really clumsy, like defund the police, I mean, I'm not trying to change it at this point because it's already like, we're all in now on defund the police.
Here's the thing. If we change it at this point, then they're just going to keep using it.
Right. So there's no point. I'm just saying, like, when these ideas are like pushed, I mean, I guess, though, at the same time, this is the kind of stuff that fucking arises organically, and there's not really like a bunch of people sitting around in a fucking room somewhere like, what's our slogan going to be?
Well, you know what I think it is? Do you know what I think the fucking problem is, honestly?
What?
It's a lack of unified leadership for these movements. It's too disparate. It's too fucking left to the masses for interpretation, and it gives too many fucking damning sound bites and too many stupid ideas to the other side to fucking use as ammunition. And that's all it takes for some of these people in the red over here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All it takes is one picture of some dude in chop with no shirt on, high off his mind on cocaine, talking about destroying the government or something. It's over.
Exactly. And there's like, right? Well, I ain't on them side.
Do you know when a leftist social movement did work and accomplished massive goals? When it was led by Martin Luther King. When it had a central leadership that was constantly preaching nonviolence, let them do it to you. Sit down in the streets and let them abuse you, because the picture of that is more powerful than any brick that you could throw at these people. That message has been forgotten. And so that there's no central leadership. There's nobody that everybody's looking up to that's a voice of this movement. And that has to be addressed. Like, the left needs somebody that can fucking speak to people on both sides of the aisle about this in ways that they can all understand, that takes this type of shit into consideration. You don't think Martin Luther King carefully crafted his message?
Of course.
You don't think he carefully crafted his speeches and the slogans that grew up around them? Of course he fucking did.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not by accident. I don't think it was by random chance. I mean, when you look at these issues, I think that to me is the one that, and I said the same thing to Taylor, pretty much just verbatim to what you just said, was kind of like, look, I see this, but until there's a strong sort of like, this is the message, this is what people want to accomplish, and that message can be broken down to people and communicated to people. It's like, it's so disparate now that it's impossible to do that. Like, if you look at media coverage, it's all over the place. Okay, these people want the police to be destroyed and everything to go this way, and then these people are totally opposed to that. It's like the media coverage you see about these things is so contradictory. It's so all over the place. At the end of the day, I think most people just don't know what the fuck to think about it.
We're so steeped in presumptions about one another now. Like, there's an example of this that played out with you guys' stepdad, Steve, and me one time. We were at your house, Scotty. We were sitting on your little kind of like netted in porch, and your screen porch. We were smoking a doob or something, and we were talking. I was giving him my far future spiel about, nobody has to work, and everybody's free to live wherever they want, move about freely, and no borders, and no divisions. And he was like, obviously opposed to this idea completely. And he got heated with me, and he was like, you know what, Paul? He's like, it's very nice for you to just have like that theory or whatever, but I think that if you'd have worked a day in your life, you'd feel different. You know what I mean? And then I explained to Steve that, not only do I work now, which like he basically not only insulted me, but his sons by saying what they do isn't a job. You know what I mean? But on top of that, I worked normal fucking jobs for 20 years of my fucking life. So, you know what I mean? But like, that presumption was in him that if I had this idea, I must not understand what it means to like show up on time to work or whatever the fuck and bust your ass at work. And we have the same kind of misperceptions of people on that other side too. If we're not willing to like throw those away and start talking to people like human beings, we can fucking forget this shit. Just forget it all. We keep allowing ourselves to be played one against the other constantly and we won't engage with one another other than to ridicule, what's the fucking point?
You know, it just goes back to the to me. So you look at like the Conquest of Gaul by Julius Caesar. It's divide and conquer, and it's the easiest way. We have a very disparate nation with a lot of different ideas and a lot of different groups of people, and it's just very easy to play one against the other, and it's to the benefit of the people that control this country and the decisions being made. You know, which is basically mainly just corporate interest. I mean, we see it time and time again. Laws are just passed for the benefit of a small, select group of people, and everyone else just has to fucking fend for themselves. And if they don't like it, they're a bunch of fucking whiners. They're just some protesting scum that want to destroy your city. That's all they want. They want to destroy everything.
The rhetoric from like people like a Tucker Carlson type is like they want to defund the police so that there's no one to stop them.
Yep.
Yeah.
When they just run amok. It's like, oh my God, like how fucking. Oh well, whatever.
So now we're gonna get into.
I know that we got a lot more to go over still.
Yeah. So let's say we actually did defund the police. Like, wave a magic wand. We're gonna defund the police. And
why would anyone want to defund these guys? They look so friendly.
Yeah, I mean, TJ, look at them. Look at the stormtroopers here. They're just protecting the station. Nothing
defund, more like defund.
So there's no magic switch to turn off, and boom, there's no police department, says Alex Vitale, a sociology professor at Brooklyn College, whose 2017 book, The End of Policing, has become a manifesto for protesters and police reform advocates. People are trying to figure out what kind of society would be possible that doesn't rely on police and prisons to solve its problems. And that's a long-term political vision that is important to this movement. But if you look at what people are doing on the ground, it's taking money for gang enforcement and spending it on after-school programs and youth counselors. It's about going to budget hearings and lobbying city council members and holding town hall meetings in neighborhood centers. The advocates say that work, advocates say, could be better done by outreach workers, social workers, and community workers trained to de-escalate street feuds. That can be paid for by diverting money from police budgets to municipal programs that deal with the underlying causes of crime, including poverty, inadequate housing, and poor education. So, I mean, it's just saying, like, as we said before, the vision of this is like, look, we want to stop this at this. We're trying to deal with, instead of doing with the symptoms of the disease, let's try to cure the disease as much as we can. Let's try to treat that actual disease as the root cause of a lot of these problems.
Sounds psychotic to me.
When we talk about defunding the police, what we're saying is invest the resources that our community needs. Black Lives Matter co-founder Alicia Graza told NBC News, Meet the Press. So much of policing right now is generated and directed towards quality of life issues, homelessness, drug addiction, domestic violence. But what we do need is increased funding for housing. We need increased funding for education. We need increased funding for quality of life of communities who are over-policed and over-surveilled. Sounds highly unreasonable. I don't know why anyone would think or listen to those insane list of demands.
People are psychotic.
These people, these movements, they're just insane.
Sounds to me like a bunch of fucking thugs that just want to fucking run amok. That's what it sounds like to me, you know?
That's exactly what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
So how about Minneapolis actually defunds the police?
Good for them.
I mean, I don't know why. These guys look pretty friendly and welcoming.
Yeah. Who looks at this and says, like, maybe these aren't a good idea?
For the Minneapolis City Council on June 26th, unanimously approved a proposal to eliminate the city's police department, making the first step toward establishing a new holistic approach to public safety. Under the proposed plan, the city would eliminate the existing police department and replace it with a Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention, which will have the responsibility for public safety services, prioritizing a holistic, public health-oriented approach. The department will be overseen by a director nominated by the mayor and approved by the city council. Only individuals with, quote, non-law enforcement experience in community safety services, including but not limited to public health and or restorative justice approaches, will be eligible to hold this post, according to the amendment. So no, it can't be a cop. Interesting. Additionally, the city could keep a much smaller division of law enforcement in effect under the supervision of the Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention. We're going straight into the architecture of how safety is provided in our community, and we're going straight into the heart of the foundation of that work, Councilmember Alondro Cano said. She added, the council has been fielding ongoing calls with residents from our accountability systems change, calls from residents for accountability systems change and community-led safety. Okay. That's kind of like the vision people are kind of putting forward there, where they're actually going to basically replace the existing police structure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all eyes on Minneapolis right now, right?
I mean, if this works out like legalizing pot has worked out, then we could see a wave of this for sure.
Here's what I'm afraid of at this point, and I don't know if this is like an overblown concern on my part. I haven't heard anyone else bring it up, so I guess I will. I'm not saying no one else has brought it up. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. But you have all these cops, right, that are certainly going to be opposed to this, that are already, like, a lot of them trained to do violence and shit. So, like, what happens when all these cops, like, start, like, going on the streets and, like, doing crimes and shit just to, like, sabotage this?
I mean, hopefully they get caught doing it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know what to, like, I don't know that that's necessarily going to happen.
Right. I don't either, but I have a sneaking suspicion that at least some will.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
I mean, like, because, well, here's what I think about it, because I know that, like, I've heard of, like, fire departments and stuff. They go on strike, and then, you know, they, like, go around town and set a bunch of fires themselves to kind of, like, prove how useful they are, you know? Like, if only you had a fire department right now, someone could put out that fire, you know? So I wonder if these cops are going to go around and, like, you know, do crimes and be like, hey,
so you're saying essentially create the supply and create the demand.
Yeah.
That is very plausible. I mean, if you think about it.
So I think we need to be fucking, you know, people need to be mindful
of crimes
that
breaks
shit.
Out. Well, imagine that, because that's a headline that police would want to see. Like, let's say, like, police strike in Chicago for 3 days, and it's like 87 shootings, 800 robberies.
I'm presuming part of the police that is going to be left funded is like the investigatory arm.
Right.
Like, there's going to have to be some kind of murder investigator and that type of thing. So if there's a rash of, like, killings or whatever, and they all lead back to ex-cops, it's going to be pretty obvious what's fucking going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. What if the investigators are like, no?
See, that's the thing, is I think that, like, for this to really work, that this police office has to be purged.
Right. And I think that's kind of like where I'm at on it too.
And new police from the community need to be hired and trained. I mean, maybe these cops are maintained under a tight fucking leash.
If you had
until a new wave of fucking cops can be trained and phased in from the community and shit.
I mean, it's
and any cop that steps out of line at all is immediately replaced. You know what I mean? Like, there needs to be a zero tolerance policy with whoever's left in this department.
I wish that there was like federal support for this kind of thing, because then they could, like, have the FBI come in and
forget it. Because the police officers and correctional officers unions donate to both Democrats and Republicans.
Right.
So there's no way they're going to give that fucking political power up. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So that's pretty much a non-starter, but
it's going to have to be the people that do it. Like, the people in Minneapolis rose up and had people in place that were willing to fucking sign this into law, and they get to be the fucking great experimental, city now. If it goes well, they're able to fucking make it work.
Well, my understanding of it, though, is that there still is a ballot initiative that has to occur. So there still has to actually be a public vote on this.
Well, I've got a feeling that if it's going to pass in any city, it's going to be in this city. People are going to turn out in fucking droves.
I mean, yeah, because the idea that we can actually have this vision become a reality. I mean, like, much like we talked about legalizing weed, it's like, there's always going to be a first area. I mean, and obviously in this case, instead of being states themselves, it's probably going to be cities.
This is going to be a city thing. So
it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I can imagine a city like San Francisco or Seattle going this route as well. I wouldn't be surprised if some place on the West Coast.
It'll like if it actually works in Minneapolis, even if there are just a few problems, but it overall works, you'll see a rash of these, especially in more liberal cities and shit. And that'll be when the experiment really begins, because we'll see how fucking all these homelessness and crime and poverty numbers shake out when all that money is reinvested in the community. Hopefully it doesn't just end up lining the pockets of a corporation or a fucking bunch of politicians.
Well, some of it certainly will, knowing this country. So
the final two pieces of information I just want to show that how, even if you look at it, this is nearly all in U.S. backed criminal justice reform. Majority says criminal justice system needs overhaul or major change. I just pulled this to demonstrate when people talk about like how these ideas are unpopular, like they're really not unpopular ideas. You know, you have a complete overhaul. You have 29% of people, all adults, saying yes, complete overhaul of the system. You're having 40% at least say major changes. 25% minor changes, and 5% that are adults that are saying no change. It's just wonderful.
Everything's hunky dory.
And obviously, again, race is a big determining factor. It's only 26% of white people in this poll said complete overhaul. 57% were black. Similarly, actually, with major, it was that was actually pretty similar. 35% black, 39% white, and then 30% minor changes, 5% for blacks, minor changes, and then only 2% of black people thought the criminal justice system needed no change.
2% of black people are like, it's fine. It's cool.
It's fine. I was like, okay, well, fair enough. Political affiliations, no shock. Democrats, way more in favor of complete overhaul. Republicans, only 12%.
Is that 2% entirely made up of Candace Owens?
Yeah.
I'm thinking so.
It's just Candace Owens.
That's why I
who's
laughed
that
when I
dude?
said it.
Who's the dude that calls everybody a beta? It's Candace Owens and
Jesse Lee Peterson.
Jesse Lee Peterson.
Oh,
yeah.
It's those two. They're 1% each in the black community.
Yeah,
I see.
That's right.
I mean, and let me go down to the next one. So wide support for many police reforms. Body cameras strongly favored 71% of people, and you have somewhat favor 17%. Only 4% of people are going no body cams. And if you look at most of these things, establishing clear standards of use of force. I mean, 67%. Requiring officer to report peer misconduct, 64%. Prosecuting officers
who's voting against that? Who's voting against like cops reporting misconduct in the police department? Like who?
Yeah, here we go. Here's the actual chart here. You can do like. I wish I could get that fucking bigger. I guess I can if I just increase the size of the whole page. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, requiring officers to report peer misconduct. Wait, so somewhat, like I don't even understand the somewhat. This like, how is this not just 100% Like the only people that should be opposed to that are cops, right?
There's too many people. There's not enough cops to make up fucking.
Like who the fuck? Here's the question. Like, so if a cop sees another cop doing something bad, they should report that, right? And then like. Fucking 23% of people give some wishy-washy, like, probably.
I want to know who these 8% are that are like, no.
Yeah,
No, they shouldn't tattle on the cops.
And then,
well, wait, I'm kind of confused. 8% says neither. Okay, do you either favor or oppose? Okay, so 8% are just like, I neither favor nor oppose that. But 4%, but 4% are just outright like, no, cops should not fucking tell when other cops do bad stuff. And
so
then,
what's crazy here?
And then 8% are just like, I have no opinion one way or the other.
I don't even take those people seriously.
What a bunch of sad sacks.
But guys, look at this. So very high support. Look, excessive force, bad. Reducing focus on policing low-level offenses, which, by the way, guys, as we talked about, 95% of offenses the police arrest people for are low-level offenses. Only 22% strongly favor. Somewhat favor 24%. 25% no. then 27% neither.
I don't know.
I don't really
All right,
know.
so we need to fucking work on the wishy-washiness of this fucking issue. That needs to be worked on. Reducing funding for law enforcement. That's where the real problems fucking are right there.
Now go to the last one, because this is actually the ACLU survey is pretty crazy.
The last page, you mean?
Yeah, because we've already covered a lot of this stuff.
Okay. ACLU.
Bunch of liberals.
You want to look at the key findings here?
Yes.
Okay. 91% of Americans say the criminal justice system has problems that need fixing.
All right, there you go. So 91% of Americans they surveyed. Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
71% say it is important to reduce the prison population in America, including 87% of Democrats, 67% of independents, and 57% of Republicans, including 52% of Trump voters. Okay, fair enough. 2 in 3 Americans, 68%, would be more likely to vote for an elected official if the candidate supported reducing the prison population and using the savings to reinvest in drug treatment and mental health programs, including 65% of Trump voters. Okay.
So pause right there. I mean, there you have it. These people are already in favor of this idea. It's just that the way it's when it said defund the police, they suddenly go, no. They literally asked these people the same question, and 65% of them who were Trump voters were like, yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, but the problem is that they might say that, but then they also have this contradictory mental block that says that the police are good. So
right. So when they find out that money for the mental health facility is coming out of the police budget,
yeah, that's when
they're against it.
Because
it's great, isn't it?
Their love of the police supersedes their recognition of this as a rational plan, unfortunately. 72% of Americans would be more likely to vote for an elected official who supported eliminating mandatory minimum laws. I guess mandatory minimum sentencing, right? 84% of Americans believe that people with mental health disabilities belong in mental health programs instead of prisons. That's pretty.
Remember, that makes up, by some surveys, 21% of the time police are dealing with people with mental illness.
Yeah. 71% of Americans agree that incarceration is often counterproductive to public safety, since sending someone to prison for a long sentence increases the chances that he or she will commit another crime when they get out, because prison doesn't do a good job of rehabilitating problems like drug addiction and mental illness. This includes 68% of Republicans and 65% of Trump voters. The majority of Americans recognize racial bias in the criminal justice system. Only 1 in 3 agree that black people are treated fairly by the criminal justice system.
Only a third.
Yeah, I would say that a third at this point is pretty significant. That's a pretty significantly delusional portion of the population at this point.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
And that's what the ACLU asking the questions, obviously looking for very, lefty answers to these questions.
Sure.
Because, we see opposite results in other polls. Or not opposite, I guess, but less encouraging.
Well, it's yet again, when you ask people these things, they're kind of detached. It's kind of like, the thing with entitlements. Like, we really need to cut the American budget. Yeah, what do you want to cut? You want to cut Social Security? No.
Medicare? No.
Military?
No.
No.
Cops?
No.
Yeah, like people agree with the fundamental idea of like, let's cut the budget. Yeah. Okay, what specifically? This? No. This? No. This? No. This? No. No one wants to cut anything.
A large group of people that just like they're opposed. Like, but that's like the funny thing is that's how the narrative has been shaped by the mainstream media. It's that like, a lot of people really are opposed to this, but the ideas themselves are actually not wildly opposed. It's yet again, this is actually the populist position. This is the position that most people probably hold. But it's irrelevant because it's skewed to make it look like, oh, no, most people are actually against these ideas. Most people don't like these ideas because it's going to take the police away from you. The police are going to be gone. It's going to be anarchy. It's going to be chaos.
You're going to call the police and be like, my fucking wife is being raped. And they're just going to be like, sorry, sir, we'll send a social worker over there right away to talk to the rapist. Give them
even worse, dude. Your wife will be in process of being raped, and you'll dial 911 and you'll hear, doo-doo-doo, we're sorry. This number is no longer in service. That's what's really going to happen.
You're on your own.
Deal with it yourself. There's nobody to call anymore.
Fuck, dude.
No help is coming.
It's a scary future. It's a fucking scary future.
Well,
I've seen a bunch of right-wing memes, too, where they're like, yeah, well, once these Antifas defund the police, ain't gonna be no one to stop us from going out with our guns and shooting these Antifas. So I support them in their crazy scheme. So I can go shoot them. It's like, okay.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
all
So
right, then.
it just shows you how fundamentally and morally bankrupt the people we're talking about are. Like,
they're psychos.
it's like, I mean, you have to be. It's like the same thing as like, Mexico came over the wall, just put up machine gun turrets and kill them, and then they'll never cross again. It's like, isn't that kind of immoral? No, because they're trying to come here illegally. It's like
ain't nothing more moral than that, boy.
It's like, oh my god. It's like, yeah, I understand. Like, there's laws and stuff, but I mean, when the mechanism you're actually advocating for enforcement is just like genocide or just killing everyone you're opposed to, it's not even a serious idea. And number two, like, they're never gonna go out and do it. It's like fucking bravado. It's like some Facebook bullshit. How they're gonna, I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna go do that. I mean, maybe a couple of these dumb rednecks will actually do it. The vast majority are gonna sit in their fucking goddamn F-250s and not fucking even think about, man, it's too damn hot outside to do that. I'm gonna go liberal hunting later.
I'm gonna wait till the day when it's not so hot outside, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull through the daiquiris and cream instead today. But one of these days, man, it's gonna happen.
They're all gonna die.
Just nice enough outside, and that's gonna be it.
Oh yeah, yes sirree, Bob.
That's the fucking show.
Defund the police. Defund the police.
Defund them.
Defund. Scotty.
Yeah.
But you know what you should fund instead? I think that they should cut the police budget and send that funding towards Deep Fat Fried Podcast.
That makes perfect sense.
That's what we need to do.
Can we get our t-shirts, dude?
Yeah, where's the t-shirt, Scotty?
I think so.
Where's the fucking shirt, Scotty?
Dude, I'm not even getting a shirt. I'm getting a hoodie.
Yeah, Paul got a hoodie, dude.
Fuck Paul's stupid hoodie. I want my shirt.
All right, well, I'll go get it for you in a minute.
Go get my shirt now.
Well, fuck you, TJ.
Go get my fucking shirt. I'll beat your ass,
dude.
Scotty.
Fuck you, TJ.
Beat you like a goddamn redheaded stepchild, you piece of shit. Fucking Scotty. Can't trust him. Is that the show, Scotty? Are we done? We done here? We good?
Quit bothering me, TJ.
All right, I guess we're done. See you guys next time with more deep, fat, fucking fried bitch.